The golden tree that rises in the world of Teyvat. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Klee. After the contents of the note were read out, Klee said embarrassedly, "This is the survival rules summarized by Brother Kaya. Is it something like the things that must be followed to survive here?" "Yes, that's it. Something that cannot be violated no matter what. Otherwise, terrible things will happen." "What terrible things? Will it threaten your life?" "Liusu. No, it won't be that terrible. By the way, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Klee." Klee couldn't figure out why the dangerous things in Nashida's eyes were more dangerous than being put in solitary confinement. "Hello, my name is Nashida, and this is..." "I know, this is your mother, right?" Klee said happily. In her opinion, Nashida and Liusu look very similar, which reminds her of her mother. "Yes, that's right." Nashida did not refute, but smiled and said, "Bang, it hurts." Nashida squatted down with her head in her hands, and Liusu took back her hand, as if nothing had happened, as if the behavior just now was not hers. Nashida was hit, causing Klee to step back without leaving a trace. The thumping sound made her feel scared, just like when facing Captain Jane. "I told you not to talk nonsense." Liusu looked at Nashida, who was rubbing her head. "I know." Nashida rubbed her aching head and slowly stood up, explaining to Klee, "Ahem, she is not my mother, but she takes good care of me." "Oh, I know, just like Klee and Captain Jane. By the way, why are you running so fast?" "Well, it's the Windbloom Festival. Klee wants to send these things back and then go fry fish." Klee explained embarrassedly. "Fish frying? We are going to go fishing. Do you want to come with us?" Nashida invited Klee. "Great. I'll put the things back. Let's go together." Klee excitedly picked up the things on the ground, ran into Kaya's office in a hurry, and came out after a while. "It's you guys. I thought Klee had met bad guys." Kaya came out and said with a smile when he saw Liusu and the others. He had just heard Klee's description and thought he had met dangerous people who trafficked children. He hurried out, but he didn't expect it was Wendy's friends. "Klee, listen to them when you go out to play. Remember the survival rules of the knights." Klee got it. Klee said to Kaya happily. While Liusu was on the way, eyeing on the other side also encountered a small incident. Everyone came to the 7-day statue next to the Dawn Winery in search of the letter to Barbara, and found the so-called prop, which was a very exquisite gift box. Wow, what an exquisite windmill daisy wreath, with lots of paper stars. Is it a means of attracting attention? Wendy, the so-called criminal, seems to be a fan of Miss Barbara. There is also a note. What does it say? Let me see. Payman picked up the note and observed it for a while, then read it vividly. "I'm sorry to use this method to attract you. I offer you the windflowers with sincerity for your virtue and loveliness." Huh? A scam using intimidation as a means? Payman was puzzled. Could a normal person really think of such a thing? Whether it is to gods or to important and beloved ones, flowers must be presented with the most full emotions. This is the core ceremony of the Windflower Festival today. Wendy turned to look at Barbara after she finished speaking. "In order to send you the flowers of love and blessings on a special holiday, we don't hesitate to choose eye-catching means. It looks scary, but it's a carefully prepared gift behind it." Barbara was embarrassed by Wendy's trick and scratched her head a little embarrassedly. "Oh, that's outrageous. He sounds like a guy without any sense of propriety." May the wind god fool you." "Hey, isn't what I said true?" Wendy turned her head and glanced at Aang and continued, "Ha, indeed. I seem to have a candidate like this in mind." "Who are you talking about?" Payman asked curiously. "You mean him?" Aang also thought of Albert, who was going to give Barbara the giant statue that day. "Yes, it's him. Don't say it. Let little Payman guess for a while." How could this be?" Payman stomped her feet in the air angrily. She turned her head to look at Aang, hoping that she could give her an answer, but under Aang's indescribable gaze, Payman felt that she might not be able to ask anything. "Is this the Zinglo Lake?" Liusu looked at a large lake in front of her, with a small island the size of a football field in the middle, and the statue of the wind god standing in the middle of the island. Yes, the fish in Starfall Lake are delicious, Klee said, jumping around. But if Klee fried the fish, she would be put in solitary confinement by Captain Jane. But the fish is delicious, so it's worth it. Is this what it means, to sacrifice one's life for justice? Nashida understands that you are willing to sacrifice your life for your ideals. Is this how you say sacrifice one's life for justice? Liusu turned her head and glanced at Nashida. Why does it feel like Nashida is getting more and more like this? She always does something full of wisdom. Look at her face shape and hair. Well, Nashida must be this as reincarnation. There's nothing wrong with it. Hey, isn't it? Of course not. You still have a lot to learn. Liusu didn't explain too much. She stretched out her hand and waved, and took Klee and Nashida to fly to the small island in the center of the lake. There were birds singing, flowers blooming, and fish swimming in the clear lake. Liusu found a good position, activated the grass elemental power, made a chair for himself, then took out the fishing rod without a hook, threw it towards Starfall Lake, and started fishing happily. Liusu, if you don't use a hook and bait when fishing, you won't catch any fish. Nashida looked at Liusu's behavior in confusion. In her knowledge, fishing must use a hook and bait. Liusu hung a fishing line like this, and nothing else. No matter how you look at it, it can't catch any fish, unless the fish entangles itself. You don't understand. Fishing is not for fishing, but just to enjoy the process of fishing. It doesn't matter whether there are fish or not. This is the fun of fishing. I don't understand. This has touched Nashida's blind spot in knowledge. Although she can understand all the words Liusu said, she can't understand them together. She has never heard of fishing not for fish. So what is the meaning of fishing? Forget it. Maybe this is the gap between me and the great compassion tree king. I must work hard in the future. Nashida saw that Liusu was not going to explain too much to her, so she could only cheer herself up secretly. Sister Nashida, do you want to blow up fish with Klee? Klee took out a bouncing bomb from her backpack and invited Nashida. Well, okay. Compared to the fishing mentioned by Liusu, which puzzled her, the frying fish mentioned by Klee made her understand it immediately. It means using bombs to blow up the fish. I understand this. As expected, Nashida is very smart. Chapter 77 Two Little Ones Fishing Trip. Boom bombs. The two little ones threw bombs into the Starfall Lake. With a loud rumbling sound, several fish were blown upside down and floated to the surface. Oh, the fish are all gone. The bombs are too weak. If we use big bombs, Captain Jane will find out. After throwing a lot of bombs, not many fish were blown up. This made Klee a little disappointed. But if she used big bombs, she would be put in solitary confinement again. Why can't we use big bombs? Nashida asked curiously. In her opinion, big bombs are powerful and will definitely be much better than these small bombs. Well, because of the noise caused by using a large bomb, Captain Jane in Mondstadt will notice it. By then, Captain Jane will come before the fish are eaten. Although Klee is not afraid of being put in solitary confinement, Klee wants to eat fish. Klee explained to Nashida in distress and took out a huge and good bouncing bomb from her bag, biting her finger and looking tangled, not knowing whether to throw this huge bouncing bomb. There will be a lot of fish if you throw it in, but then Captain Jane will come quickly. If you don't throw it, Starfall Lake is too big, and you can't blow up many fish. As long as there is no noise, you won't be discovered by the Captain Jane you mentioned, right? Nashida grasped the key point. Yes, but if there is no noise, the bomb will be very small, and Klee still can't blow up the fish. Got it. You can use elemental reaction. Nashida excitedly explained to Klee what she said about elemental reaction, and Klee's eyes became brighter and brighter as she listened. Great. Klee jumped up excitedly. Watch me. Nashida used the grass elemental force to cover the Starfall Lake. Countless grass seeds generated by the reaction with the water element began to cover the entire Starfall Lake. The grass seeds condensed by the grass element were like crystal clear fruits. So beautiful. Klee looked at the countless grass seeds with sparkling eyes and cheered excitedly. Okay, Klee, just throw bombs to trigger these grass seeds. After doing all this, Nashida turned to Klee and said, Yeah, watch me. The bouncing bomb. As Klee threw a bomb into the lake covered with grass elemental seeds, it was like pouring cold water into a boiling oil pan, and it began to explode violently, just like setting off firecrackers in the lake. The grass seeds were blown all over the sky, and the two little ones were attacked by the grass seeds and ran away, constantly dodging the flying grass seeds. Nashida, Liusu, who was fishing, noticed an oncoming grass seed and calmly used elemental force to isolate it. Liusu held up the shield, and the grass seeds were isolated outside the shield. After just a moment of squinting, the two little ones made such a big noise, looking at the grass seeds that were still being generated on the water surface, which had been spread by the fire element, and continued to explode. Oh no, I'm in trouble. Kelly held her head, and squatted to defend. Although the explosion of the grass seeds was not loud, the amount was large, rumbling, and Captain Kin would definitely find it. Liusu waved her hand and cleared all the grass seeds in the lake. As the explosion of the grass seeds stopped, countless fish on the lake were all blown upside down, and floated on the water. Bang! It hurts. Nashida was hit by another violent slap. She was hit and squatted down, holding her head. After a while, she raised her head, and looked at Liusu pitifully. Liusu. Liusu's violent slap made Kelly stunned. The bouncing bomb in her hand fell out in fear. It bounced and fell into the Starfall Lake, and there was another huge explosion. Liusu looked at Nashida, who was looking at her pitifully with her head in her hands, and felt angry and amused. Others used grass element, but you used divine power, and kept generating grass element seeds. Why did it feel more and more wrong? Why was Nashida so naughty? It was completely different from the game. Did her character become distorted again? Forget it. I won't do it again. I'll punish you by eating a bite of fish later. Liusu glanced at Nashida and said, well, Liusu, can you please not eat fish? It's so disgusting. Nashida looked at Liusu in horror. Seafood was a sin in the world. She didn't understand why there was such a disgusting thing in the world. If it doesn't taste good, why did you fry so much? Well, got it. Nashida's ponytail drooped down weakly, and she was obviously very afraid of this punishment. With such a big commotion, Captain Kin must have noticed it, and was on her way. Turning her head to look at Klee, who was scared, because she had done something wrong, Liusu didn't know what to say. Forget it, since it's fried, let's make some. Liusu grabbed a few fried fish, processed them casually, and started to grill the fish. Because of the memory of a great compassion tree king, grilling fish was easy. Soon, the aroma of grilled fish filled the island. Kelly looked at Liusu's grilled fish with sparkling eyes, and swallowed her saliva involuntarily. She felt that the grilled fish smelled so good, but because of Nashida's criminal record, she didn't dare to go forward. In her eyes, Liusu was as scary as Captain Kin, and she had just done something wrong. Kelly, do you want to eat it? Liusu picked up a grilled fish, and handed it to Kelly. Kelly walked over slowly, and took the grilled fish nervously, fearing that Liusu would suddenly give her a slap. She was even prepared to squat with her head in her hands. Millimeters. Delicious. She got the grilled fish smoothly, and the expected violent slap did not fall on her head. She could not resist the aroma of the grilled fish, and took a bite of the grilled fish. The delicious taste of the grilled fish entered her mind, making her squint her eyes happily. This grilled fish was the most delicious grilled fish she had ever eaten. Nashida, your grilled fish. Liusu, can you please not eat it? Nashida took the grilled fish with a bitter face. In her eyes, the grilled fish, which was obviously very fragrant, was like a monster from the abyss, which she could not accept. No, you will be punished if you do something wrong. Liusu refused without hesitation. Woo. Nashida let out a mournful cry, closed her eyes, and took a bite of the grilled fish like a warrior going to die, began to chew quickly, and then swallowed it. It seems that it is not so bad. When Nashida ate, she felt a fragrance instead. Thinking of this, Nashida took another bite. This time, she chewed carefully, and felt that it was surprisingly delicious. Liusu, why is this? Nashida asked curiously, eating the fish while talking. Well, you don't like seafood, because they have a fishy smell. I removed the fishy smell, and you won't find it unpalatable. Liusu explained calmly, continuing to grill the fish in her hands. Thank you, Liusu, you are so nice to me. Nashida happily came over, stuck to Liusu from behind, and said intimately that Liusu was good in every way. If 100 points was the full score, Liusu would be 101 points in Nashida's heart. It would be even better if she didn't knock on her head. Nashida could raise Liusu's score to 102 points. At this time, Kin in Mondstadt had already noticed the huge explosion, put down what she was doing, and ran towards the direction of Zinglol Lake. Chapter 78 Kin. Klee, you're frying fish again, and making such a big noise. You stay in the confinement room. After a while, Jane appeared. She had an extra talent bonus for catching Klee. She used the wind elemental power to jump to the island in a few steps, and said angrily to Klee, who was still eating fish. Would Klee know she was wrong? Captain Jane, please don't be angry. Klee used the coquettish method on Jane, and it hit. The effect was group-wide, and Jane's anger dropped significantly. Hey, Klee, I told you not to use bombs to blow up fish. Why didn't you listen? And now it's the Windbloom Festival. Kin squatted down helplessly and stroked Klee's little head. Just when Klee thought she had escaped, Kin changed her tone and said seriously, however, because this time it's the Windbloom Festival, you will be locked up in the confinement room until the Windbloom Festival. Klee got it. Captain Kin, eat fish. The fish cooked by Liusu is delicious. Klee took out a fish and handed it to Kin, saying that the Windbloom Festival was the day after tomorrow, so she only needed to be locked up for one day. After blowing up so many fish, she only needed to be locked up for one day. Klee felt that she had made a profit instead of a loss. Liusu? Hearing Klee's words, Kin turned around and saw Liusu sitting on the chair, as if she had merged with the surrounding environment. Because she was too angry just now, she didn't notice Liusu at all, and only had Klee's red figure in her eyes. Sorry, I was so angry just now that I only paid attention to Klee. Did Klee cause you any trouble? Jin apologized to Liusu. Kia had already told her his guess. Liusu had a good relationship with Venti, and should also be a god. Although it was not clearly confirmed, the proper etiquette should not be missed. It's okay. After all, it was Nashida who caused it. I have already dealt with it. Hearing Liusu's words, Jin breathed a sigh of relief. She looked around and found no obvious traces of the huge explosion. There were just a lot of fish floating on the water. I guess the explosion just now was really powerful. Thank you again for your help. There are still many things to do at the Windflower Festival. I'm leaving first. Jin said hurriedly, then turned to look at Klee and said, Klee, come back with me. Wow, Captain Jin, can Klee play for a while? I promise I won't blow up fish again. Klee said to Jin with a pleading look. Hey, Liusu, can you help me take care of Klee? King couldn't refuse Klee's request, and there were so many fish in the water, and Klee would not continue to fry fish. Well, it's okay, you go. Thank you very much, the knights will definitely appreciate what you did. Liusu's answer made Kin feel relieved. With Liusu's cooking, nothing big should happen, right? Take a few fish before leaving. You haven't eaten for so long. Nashida will give Captain Kin a few more fish. When Kin was about to leave, Liusu said, okay. Nashida jumped to the place where the fish was grilled, picked up a handful of fish, and handed it to Kin. Thank you. Kin didn't refuse, took the fish given by Nashida and left. On the way back, because she had been busy for so long and hadn't eaten anything, Kin was also attracted by the aroma of the grilled fish in her hand. She picked up a fish and took a bite and found it surprisingly delicious. The aroma of the fish was fully displayed, and there was no fishy smell, but a natural fragrance. It seems that Kia's guess is right. She is really a god. Even ordinary grilled fish has such a strong effect. If this guess is right, it should be the one from Zumi, right? Kin ate while hurrying on the road. The effect of grilled fish also relieved her originally tired body. After Kin left, the two children happily ate fish on the island. Liusu lay motionless on the chair, but from time to time she used her divine power to pick up the fish in the water and put it next to the fire. For a fisherman, catching fish with his own hands is unreasonable. Payman, Traveler, Mr. Poet. It's bad. Bennett is missing. Eyeing, Payman and Wendy, who had just received the homework from Timors, didn't know where Bennett was, so they could only go to the Cathedral of Westwind to find Barbara to ask. Unexpectedly, Barbara didn't know where Bennett was either. Missing? Does it mean that he never came back after leaving that day? Wendy said in surprise, imitating Barbara's actions. Yes, I'm worried that he might be in danger, but I don't know where he is. Thousand Wind Temple. Barbara was interrupted by a voice before she finished speaking. Everyone looked up and saw the nun Rosalia they met before. Hey, Rosalia. You were yelling in the church, and I just happened to hear you. Payman also remembered something and said, so, that guy seemed to have said. I remember, it was the Thousand Wind Temple. There's no time to lose. Let's go to the Thousand Wind Temple and take a look. After Wendy finished speaking, a task appeared in front of Aang. She had no sense of participation in the incident at all, as if she had been assigned again. However, the situation was critical, so Aang didn't say much and followed Wendy to the Thousand Wind Temple. Along the way, I didn't see anyone who looked like Bennett. Time passed, and everyone arrived at the Thousand Wind Temple, but they didn't see Bennett on the way. Look over there. Payman pointed at a one-eyed Xiaobao and said, there's a sound. Laser, someone is coming. Maybe they are here to save us. Traveler, be careful of the enemy. Wendy reminded from the side. This ruins guard was too weak, and he didn't even want to attack. It's just a ruins guard. Watch me. Aang took out the rock knot green. The silver ring on his left hand flashed, and the originally dark green sword turned golden. It was Aang's daily operation, to enchant the sword before killing monsters. It didn't take long to enchant the holy attribute, and there was no need to recite shameful slogans. Golden attribute energy. Wendy looked at the sword in Aang's hand with a golden glow in surprise. Rock attribute? No, it doesn't have the heavy and steady feeling of the old man, but it has a sacred breath. Aang accelerated and attacked the ruins guard. In the world of Genshin Impact, she didn't know how many of these things she had killed. The ruins guard has one thing in common, that is, weak attribute attack and strong physical defense. At the beginning, Aang had a hard time beating it without the holy law blade. Later, with this, it was basically over in a short while. To fight the ruins guard, Aang jumped high, raised her sword, and slashed at the ruins guard. If it was in the world of Genshin Impact, she would not dare to do this, because the ruins guard there was too crazy. They could attack or defend, and they could also turn windmills and release missiles. The sword flashed, and the ruins guard froze in place. Electric arcs began to appear on his body, and then he fell to the ground with a bang. Aang swung the sword handsomely, and put away the weapon in his hand. You are so amazing. You solved it so quickly. Payman walked up, and praised Aang excitedly. Not bad. During the time you left Mondstadt, and went to Liu, Traveler, you have grown a lot. Wendy also said in surprise. In his opinion, although the Traveler could defeat this ruins guard with his progress, it would definitely be a bit difficult, but in the end it was solved so cleanly. Don't praise me, I will be proud, Aang said with her hands on her waist and her head raised. Payman. Wendy. Chapter 79 Bennett and Reiza. Here. Bennett, let's save him. Why is there two floors in this cell? After getting rid of the ruins guard, everyone started looking for Bennett, and finally found Bennett imprisoned in an iron door. See what I said? Anyone who sees this cell will be surprised. Bennett was not panicked at all by Payman's surprise, but joked to the person imprisoned inside. Aang saw that the person inside was actually the wolf boy, Laser, who had met in the wolf territory before. It's a pity that you can lock them up on both sides. Payman didn't know what to say. This result was really surprising. What a superb design. Is it an ancient mechanism? Wendy looked at the iron door that locked Bennett and Laser and analyzed. This thing must have mechanism. Can you trouble me to look for it nearby? Stomach. A little hungry. Compared to Bennett's strong desire to get out, Laser was more concerned about his stomach. Bennett turned to Laser and said dissatisfiedly, you just ate the apple in my bag. It seems that your life in prison is pretty good. How about staying here? No, stop kidding. Please, go find the mechanism quickly, okay? Hearing that the bard was going to stay here without helping him, Bennett asked in a panic, and put his hands together, and bowed to Wendy. Let's go, Traveler, let's find the mechanism. Wendy also put away his joking expression. No need. Aang reached out, and touched the iron door that locked Bennett. It felt like an ordinary iron door. Ah. Payman scratched his head, not understanding why Aang said that. Bennett, move aside. After Aang finished speaking, Bennett unconsciously stepped back a long distance. This was driven by his instinctive foresight of crisis. Hey, Aang, you're not going to use violence, are you? Payman was surprised to see Aang pull out the rock not green again, raise the sword and plan to chop at the iron gate. Hey, traveler, don't be so violent. This is the site of the monster Thousand Winds Temple. We can't just destroy it like this. Wendy hurried to stop the traveler's behavior. Oh, that's it. Okay. Aang looked at the iron gate in front of her with a little regret. Obviously the problem could be solved with one sword. Who told you that violence can solve it? Although it is indeed very fast, many things still require wisdom. Didn't the god of wisdom tell you? This is what Liusu told me. Although violence cannot completely solve the problem, it can save trouble and avoid some unnecessary troubles. Aang spread his hands and said, is this her original words? What else did she say? Wendy felt that Liusu's style seemed to be distorted. He frowned and said, why would the god of wisdom want to solve the problem by force? Oh, she also said that only when force cannot solve the problem, then use wisdom. Of course, this was not said by Liusu herself, but by Zhongli. And Liusu solved the seal in the salt of the earth last time in this way, so Aang felt that what Zhongli said made sense. Since she could rely on brute force, why should she use her brain? But why would she, a god of wisdom, think of using brute force? She is not strong. Who said that? I saw with my own eyes that Liusu solved the vortex demon god Ossel with one sword. Yeah, I saw it too. Liusu is really strong. Payman nodded vigorously on the side. Such a powerful demon god was killed by Liusu's sword, which made her intuitively feel the power of the gods. What? Killed Ossel with one sword? Wendy was so surprised that she almost jumped up. He knew Ossel and caused a lot of trouble to Liu. In the end, Zhongli could only suppress him. Unexpectedly, he died. It turns out that my perception was correct. I'd better stay away from him in the future. Wendy touched his chin on the spot. Thinking of the man who was smiling and trying to trick him, he felt like ants were crawling all over his body. In his heart, he also listed Liusu as a person who should not be provoked, just like the old man. Aang, this seems to be a mechanism. Payman saw a huge button on the wall on the left, and said to Aang, Aang. He walked forward, and pressed the mechanism, and the door that locked Laze and Bennett was opened. Open the door, traveler. Isn't it more convenient to find a mechanism? I think it's better to use force, so I don't have to use my brain. Wendy, well, it seems that it was all in vain. Ah. Finally got out. How did you do it? Looking at Bennett who was so excited that he jumped up there, Aang asked curiously. It's very sudden. In response to Laze's words, Bennett scratched his head and laughed. Ahaha, I don't think it's sudden. Anyway, it's the norm of life for me. Sorry. Don't apologize. It's not your fault. Excuse me, can we listen to your stories? Wendy interrupted the conversation between the two and turned their attention to her. Wait a minute, what about the threatening letter? Bennett remembered the threatening letter from Barbara before, and they were locked up in the Thousand Winds Temple for this. Payman explained, that's not true, it's just a gift-giving method for fans to attract attention. What? Bennett couldn't believe it. He didn't expect that it was just a method of a fan to attract attention that made him locked up here for so long. He pointed to the place where he was locked up and said loudly, damn, just for this reason. I was locked up for a whole day. Yes, sorry. Bennett's strong emotional fluctuations made Laze next to him lower his head a little uncomfortable. No, Laze, I'm not talking about you. I told you not to apologize. Bennett hurriedly comforted him. He knew that it was because of his bad luck that Laze was implicated. It's also my fault for being too reckless. I didn't look at the map clearly and chose the wrong destination. Alas, after I left the cathedral, I went directly to the Thousand Wind Temple area. There are many monsters in this area, and there are also ruins guards. It's so big, you should have seen it. But I'm a first-class adventurer. With my agile actions, I bypassed it and came to the depths of the temple. At this time, I heard the roar of the monster. Bennett said this, His voice suddenly increased, and he turned his head sharply, scaring Payman next to him. "Ah, it seems that I have seen the ending," Payman whispered. "I wonder if this is a trap prepared by those bad guys, and I, the dignified adventurer Bennett, the leader of the Benny Adventure Group, will never back down." Bennett became more and more excited as he spoke, and began to vividly describe the scene at that time. "So I rushed in immediately, and then I found him inside. Leis, why did you come to the Thousand Winds Temple?" Payman asked the Leis that Bennett was pointing at. "There are many hunters in the wolf territory. It was very noisy. I left, walked all the way to the Thousand Winds Temple, and then what? Was he trapped in the mechanism?" In response to Wendy's question, Leis still gave a brief answer. "Yeah. This cell is too insidious, with 2 layers inside and outside. I saw Leis trapped in the cell by the mechanism, so of course I chose to save him, but who knew?" Bennett said this, scratched his head, and continued embarrassedly. "There was a loud bang, and the other cell door fell down. Yeah, it's expected." Payman and Dying had experienced Bennett's luck before. "By the way, why did you come to the Thousand Winds Temple?" Wendy answered Bennett's question. "Bennett, do you remember your homework? I'm waiting to get paid after grading it." "Oh, a love poem. Of course I remember it. I was locked up in prison for a day and a night, and Zyanruo had nothing to do, so he just finished it and asked Laze to review it." "Really? How did he write it?" Chapter 80, Things in the Tavern. "I don't know." Laze was silent for a moment and then continued. "I don't understand. But, warm, numb, like being pricked by a hook fruit." Laze scratched his head embarrassedly. "Bennett, can I read your work?" "Oh, sure. Let everyone see my strength. Come on, Aying, clap your hands." Payman's words made Aying roll her eyes at her, but she still clapped. Wendy moistened her throat and began to read with emotion. "You and the Sea of Jinji are very close and very far away. One is on the other side of the continent, and the other is in my heart. The hook fruit and dandelion, my windflower, are dedicated to you." "Huh? Hook fruit?" Payman was curious. "Is the hook fruit also a windflower?" "Why, how about it? It's okay, right? Well, it's also a work with a very personal style." Payman scratched his head. Bennett's poem made her completely unable to understand what he was talking about. I think it's very good," Wendy commented after reading it. "It's a very good work. It's simple and sincere, and it's both friendly and immersive." Thank you, teacher." Wendy's straightforward praise made Bennett a little embarrassed. "Great, Bennett. Yeah. Thank you too, Laser. Congratulations, but what a pity." "But, the hook fruit and dandelion are both windflowers?" "Well, I asked Laser what you think the windflower is, and he answered the hook fruit," Bennett explained to Payman. Laser answered seriously, "Yeah, the hook fruit is good. It turns out that the fruit can also be considered a windflower. Yeah, the view is very novel." Wendy couldn't deny what Payman said. "Ah, I'm so happy. I'm lucky today," Bennett said excitedly. "I'm trapped in this place, but someone came to save me and praise the poem I wrote. It's great. I'll buy wine for my teacher when I get back to Mond. Bennett's requirements are so low." "Hahaha, don't say that. I know my luck is not very good, but life must go on, right?" After hearing Bennett's words, Lazen encouraged him. "Well, keep going, you guy." Hahaha. Bennett was very happy about Lazen's encouragement. When everyone finished talking, Wendy said, "Everyone, I have good news. All the homework of the students in the Love Poetry Crash course has been collected." "Great." When everyone heard it, they all applauded. "To celebrate, let's go to the pub for a drink together." Wendy is now rich again, and Liusu helped him pay off the wine that he owed that day, which made him particularly happy. "Everyone, Laze and I will take our leave first. He said he knows some rare exploration sites and wants to take me to see them. Have fun." After that, Bennett took Laze away, and Aang took Payman and Wendy back to Mondstadt, the gift of angels. "Kia, why are you here?" As soon as he entered the door, Payman saw Dilek and Kia sitting next to him, and asked in surprise, "Oh, I was thinking of looking for you after drinking, but you showed up on your own initiative. It's so lively." Wendy said with emotion, while sitting at the bar. Kiara explained on the side. After all, it's the Windbloom Festival now, and monstered people who have free time and money will go to the tavern to sit down. Yeah, it's quite lively. The voice from the side made Wendy pause. He turned his head and saw Liusu walking in from outside. Why are you here? Wendy showed an awkward but polite smile. Of course, I'm going to buy some raspberry mint drinks for Nashida. She's too full from eating fish. Liusu turned to look at Nashida and Klee behind her. Nashida burped from time to time. Just now at Starfall Lake, the two little ones were eating grilled fish like crazy. They kept eating until the end. More than half of the fried fish was eaten by the two of them. Burp, it's not because of this fish. Burp, it's so delicious. Nashida said while burping. Yes, the grilled fish Liusu makes is the best. Klee said happily on the side. Liusu spent an afternoon correcting Klee's statement and stopped her from calling him by a strange name. 2 cups of raspberry mint drinks, right? I'll make it right away. Dilek looked at Nashida who was burping, picked up the tools, and started to make it quickly. Here. The two little ones happily took the drinks and drank a big sip happily. Ah, delicious. I'm alive. Ah. Klee also prepared a lot of grilled fish, all made by Liusu, on a night sister, little Payman, brother Kiaya, sister Aseria, brother Wendy, and uncle Dilek. Come and try it. Klee happily took out the fish in her backpack. This backpack seemed to be the space backpack prepared by Alice for Klee, which contained a lot of bombs and strange things. Klee jumped and distributed the fish in her hand, but Dilek's face twitched. He called others brother and sister, but called himself uncle. However, with his temperament, he would not correct anything. He picked up the fish given by Klee and took a bite. The taste was surprisingly good. No wonder these two ate so much and ate themselves too much. It's delicious, with the taste of nature. Payman took a bite and commented happily. Well, it tastes good. After tasting it, several people thought it tasted good. Would you like something to drink? Dilek said to the visitor after finishing the grilled fish. Well, give me one of each. I didn't drink it last time, so I'll try it this time. Liusu looked at the list and said directly. Okay, it's unexpectedly the same. Payman spread his hands to eyeing. How come these gods are more unreliable than each other? It's okay that they never look at the price when ordering, but now they don't even look at the variety. Ahem, different. Wendy waved his hands and said. He also envied Liusu for being so rich even as a mortal. Unlike him, he could only cheat for wine. By the way, where is Zhongli? Why haven't I seen him these days? Payman said curiously. Are you talking about that gentleman? He's drinking tea on the 2nd floor now. Dilek said a little strangely. If he didn't know that the other party had no other intentions, he would have thought that the other party was here to mess up the place. However, Zhongli knew a lot of things and answered many questions for him. Huh? Drinking tea at the Angel's Gift? Payman said in shock. I can only say that he is worthy of being Zhongli. It seems that the friends of the traveler are very individual. Traveler, are you here to drink in the tavern? Kiaya said with a smile. It doesn't matter whether you drink or not. The important thing is to feel the atmosphere of the festival. Captain Kin asked me to tell you that you have been selected as the star of this year's Windflower Festival. This is a great honor. Star of the Windflower Festival? Payman asked puzzled. The Star of the Windflower Festival is one of the highest honors in Mondstadt, and it is usually only awarded to those who have made great contributions to Mondstadt, or performed most outstandingly during the Windflower Festival. Dilek said while mixing drinks at the bar. You have helped everyone a lot since you came to Mondstadt. This is people's gratitude to you. Yes, accepted with gratitude. Oh, by the way, there is one more thing. Kiaya said with a smile. The star of the Windflower Festival needs to attend the Windflower ceremony with the Knight Commander. At this ceremony, you will present the Windflower to Barbatus, the god of wind, on behalf of the people of Mondstadt. But, what kind of flower is the Windflower? Payman said, scratching his head. She still didn't know what the Windflower was. Well, that's a good question. Dilek, what do you think? Dilek ignored Kia's question and said expressionlessly, it seems to be your job to convey messages and explain the ceremony. Ah, you have no sense of humor. Kia spread his hands. Dilek really has no sense of humor at all. It was said that people with the fire god's eye would be enthusiastic. Traveler, the windflower has always been decided by the star of the Windflower Festival. So, it is up to you to decide which flower to offer to the god of wind in this celebration. Chapter 81. After this mission, Mondstadt will belong to Liu. Aang turned to look at Wendy, who was watching the show. Wendy, what do you think should be offered as the windflower? So cunning. Just ask me directly. Wendy smiled and continued. Any flower will do, as long as it is your choice. Oh. Then how about the glass lily? Aang pretended to think for a while, and said with a smile. Wendy. Everyone present was silent. Aang, are you serious? Does Mond have glass lilies? Isn't this a specialty of Liu? Well done. After this job, Mond will belong to Liu. I'm optimistic about you, Aang. Liusu said with a smile. Well, traveler, although the windflower is decided by you, it still has to be in Mond. Mond doesn't have your glass lily at all. Wendy said to Aang with an awkward but polite smile. Why not? I sang Mondstadt's songs when I was picking glazed lilies at the fairy sending ceremony in Liu. Venti, how about changing the star of the Windflower Festival? Venti turned to Kia and said. No, this is the same for the knights and Mondstadt people. The traveler has done so much for Mondstadt. It is impossible to change the person for this Windflower Festival. Kia said with a smile, directly rejecting Venti's suggestion. But the traveler has to offer Liu's specialties to the god of wind at the Windflower Festival. Don't you care? That's your business. Mondstadt is a free country. Everyone has their own ideas, so everyone has a different view of the windflower. This is what the god of wind Barbatus said. Venti, no matter how free it is, it's not so free. Mondstadt is about to fall. Do you know? 2 gods, no, 3 gods have already reached the Mondstadt headquarters. Then it's decided. Actually, I think Kingston is also good. Nachanghua seems to be okay. How about Liulibag? Aang said with a smile, which made Wendy uncomfortable, because these flowers were not from Mondstadt. Tell me, what do you want? Wendy looked at Aang, who was smiling. He knew that he couldn't hide. There was no way to change the situation. Well, let me think about it. I'll tell you, when I think of it. Aang pretended to think for a while, and then gave Wendy an uncertain answer. Wendy, tell me what it is, when you think of it. Hey. Aang tilted his head, and made a cute expression. I'm telling you, don't go too far. Be careful that you will be in trouble. Wendy pretended to be fierce and threatened Aang. Look, the bard from Mondstadt is going to fight. Zhongli, if you don't come down, Aang will be bullied to death, and then no one will pay for you. Liusu pretended to shout loudly. Oh, who is it? Zhongli walked down from the upstairs step by step, his steps steady, looking at Wendy with a pair of golden pupils. The traveler helped him a lot, especially paying for him and Liu. Wendy. No, we are all gods. Why do you have more drama than me? And I can't beat you. Why do you have to bring up the old man? And old man, you are so steady. Why do you also come to make trouble? Now you are still helping the traveler. Have you been worn out to this extent? Okay, I agree. Are you satisfied now? Wendy felt that he was coerced, but he couldn't beat him, so he could only compromise helplessly, and then turned to Aang and said, hey. Aang was very happy to achieve his goal. Haha, it seems that the 2 of you have reached an agreement happily. Kia said with a smile on the side. Wendy changed the subject and said, by the way, where is the bartender? Why has Dilek been mixing drinks these days? Rosaria replied, looking for Charles. He's delivering food. Haha, who can blame the fact that so many people ordered drinks for Takia during the Windflower Festival? Dilek could not deny Kia's answer, but his hands kept moving. Hey, Liusu, is this how you drink? Wendy looked at Liusu sitting next to her with heartache. Dilek mixed a glass of wine, and Liusu took it, and drank it in one gulp without even looking at it. Although I haven't tried other drinks, the drinks mixed by Dilek are still good. Liusu took another glass of wine mixed by Dilek, and drank it in one gulp as if drinking water, as if savoring the taste. Thank you for the compliment. Dilek responded lightly. For some reason, he felt that the other 2 gods were much better than Wendy. One was knowledgeable and the other was powerful. Although they had some minor flaws, these did not affect them. Thinking of this, Dilek turned his head to look at his own wind god, then turned away with a bit of disappointment. Wendy noticed Dilek's gaze and said, hey, Master Dilek, make me a cup too. First come, first served. This customer's order has not been completed yet. Please wait a moment. Dilek glanced at Wendy and said slowly, then what do you think of Master Dilek's cooking skills, Miss Sister, who is very skilled? Not bad. Extraordinary. Did you fight? Payman heard the conversation between Kia and Rosaria, and she asked in confusion. It was just a misunderstanding. Miss Rosaria rushed past the knight's window and I mistook her for a suspicious person. Fortunately, I discovered it early and stopped in time. After hearing Kia's words, Payman scratched his head and said, it turns out that the suspicious figure that day was Rosaria. You always pay attention to the actions of monstered people. You are really not an ordinary nun. Same here. Master Dilek is not an ordinary wealthy businessman at all. Rosaria also responded to Dilek's meaningful words. Miss Rosaria is really a joke. Are there any people here who have a small background? Listening to the conversation between Dilek and Rosaria, Kia smiled and said, one is a traveler from another world, one seems to be a god of Liu, one is their own wind god, and the other one, although unknown, should be related to Zumi. The most important thing is that Klee and Nashida are not simple. He observed that from Nashida's elf ears that are the same as Klee. Even the famous Knight of Honor has come to the tavern as a guest. Today is indeed a good day for drinking. Kia did not mention the identity of the three gods and brought up the traveler eyeing. That's right. Then Kia, have you prepared your tuition? Wendy said with a smile. Just go to Master Dilek to collect it. 3 bottles of wine cost me a lot of money. The better the wine, the more expensive it is. It's reasonable. Rosaria suddenly asked eyeing, traveler, is the Windflower Festival fun? Yeah, it's okay. Eyeing nodded. Except that the rewards are a little small, everything else is good. I have seen a lot of things and there are new ways to play. The total of these rewards is not as good as Liu's one-day commission. Really? That's good. Liusu, old man, what do you think of the Windflower Festival? Wendy turned around and said, not bad. The leisurely and peaceful atmosphere, I like it very much. Zhangli nodded. It's okay. If you treat me to a big meal at the Deer Hunter, I will be even happier. Liusu said and turned around to look at Wendy. Wendy complained to Liusu bitterly, hey, you are so rich, there is no need to ask a poor bard like me to treat you, right? Don't you feel guilty? It's okay, a little bit. Liusu stretched out her hand and made a barely visible gap between her white index finger and thumb. Wendy, thank you so much. Hey, don't stop me, I want to fight this woman. Wendy made a threatening move, intending to attack Liusu, but after waiting for a while, he found that no one stopped him. Why didn't you stop me? Wendy turned around and asked awkwardly. Kalia stopped and said with a smile, ahem, as long as you are happy. From a general rational point of view, you can give it a try. After all, I haven't seen Liusu in a formal battle. Zhangli said on the side. Wendy sat down silently, ignoring Zhangli's advice. It seems that you are treating me as a guinea pig. What a pity. I thought we could fight, so that Liu's territory would be bigger. Aang said with regret. Wendy, are you polite? Traveler. Wendy's little episode seemed to liven up the atmosphere, making the atmosphere in the tavern more enthusiastic. Kia raised his glass and called out, come on, everyone, cheers for the Happy Windbloom Festival and the free monstered people. Cheers. Wendy, people's joys and sorrows are not the same. I just think they are noisy, and even the sea idea in my hand has lost its taste. Everyone spent a happy meal. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 Nashida's Curiosity. Back at the hotel, Liusu didn't find Liuan. After checking the message, she found out that Liuan had hurried back because Shen had another problem. And he also asked Liusu to take good care of Ganyu and not let Ganyu be deceived by Keking. Liusu, What Liusu didn't know was that on this day, Liuan secretly followed Keking and Ganyu. She found that Keking was too good. Some of her actions made her apprentice blush, and Ganyu didn't resist. Just like a fierce and aggressive big bad wolf facing a delicate little lamb, the little lamb was played around by the big bad wolf, and could only fall step by step, to become the big bad wolf's food. Liuan knew that Ganyu was not far from falling, but Liusu had said before that they should let it go. She could only grit her teeth and observe their intimate behavior from behind. In the afternoon, she felt that her other apprentice had another problem, so she had to rush back to Liu quickly and left a message for Liusu. Well, that's outrageous. After being shocked for a while, Liusu sighed. Have Ganyu and Keking developed to this point? Why didn't I notice it when I was playing the game? Could it be that the golden tree extended to the world of collapse, polluting the traditional culture there? Liusu, what's wrong? Nashida saw Liusu frowning and thinking about something, and asked in a low voice. It's okay, go to sleep. How to tell Nashida about this? Say that the relationship between Keking and Ganyu exceeds friendship? Turned orange? Liusu lay on the bed. Although it is okay for gods to not rest, and can rely on divine power to maintain, it is always good to take a rest, and there is nothing to do at night. Not long after lying down, Nashida rubbed over, and Liusu hugged Nashida. It felt like hugging a soft badminton, and there was a fragrance of an unknown plant, which smelled good. So warm. Nashida buried her head in Liusu's arms, feeling the scent of Liusu. These 2 days were the most comfortable times for her to sleep. She didn't have to think about anything. Her body and mind were relaxed, and she would have sweet dreams at night. When Liusu walked out of the door at sunset, she unexpectedly saw Ganyu and Keking. Ganyu's cheeks were flushed at this time, while Keking looked relaxed, and the smile on her face could not be concealed. Liusu looked at the two of them with strange eyes, as if something extraordinary had happened yesterday. Ah, immortal lord. Good morning. Good morning. Ganyu turned her head and saw Liusu looking at them with strange eyes and exclaimed. When Keking heard Ganyu's words, she turned her head and saw Liusu looking at them with a strange face. The smile on her face froze a little and she greeted in a panic. Immortal lord, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Liusu retracted her expression, greeted them with a fierce face, and gave Keking a meaningful look when she left. This look made Keking's heart skip a beat, and she felt like she was caught doing something bad. Don't look, you can't watch a child. Liusu suddenly realized that Nashida next to her was about to use her divine power to peek into Keking and Ganyu's thoughts. Liusu hurriedly stopped her and pulled Nashida away. Hey, Liusu, I'm just curious. Nashida looked at Ganyu and Keking, who were not right, and a strong desire for knowledge rose in her heart, but she was suppressed by Liusu, and was completely powerless. She could only be taken away by Liusu with a look of regret. What's there to be curious about? The Windflower Festival is about to begin. Let's go eat something first, and then go to Monstead Square to take a look. Okay. At this time, under the statue of the god of wind in Monstead Square, Captain Jane, we are here. Aang brought payment to the destination and saw Jane, Venti, and Zhongli standing calmly beside them. When Jin heard the voice, she turned around and saw Aang coming and said, Traveler. Ah, no, perhaps you should be called an honorary knight here. I'm sure you've heard that you are the star of this year's Windflower Festival and will represent all Mondstadt people to present the Windflower to Barbatus, the god of wind. At this, Jin's voice slowed down and she hesitated. But, this time seems a little different. With us, the street singers, and the people we know in Liu, isn't this Windflower Festival extra lively? Payman took over the topic, and turned around to see several eye-catching people, Ganyu, Keking, Zhongli, as well as Liusu and Nashida who had just arrived. Jin placed her right hand on her chest, made a knight's salute and said, yes, thank you for coming, and I hope you will continue to enjoy life in Mondstadt in the future. The Windflower ceremony is about to begin. Star of the Windflower Festival, have you chosen your Windflower? Aang said, I have chosen. Because they already knew what the Windflower was in the tavern yesterday, and then in front of Wendy, she slowly took out half a branch of Kinksin from her backpack. This action seemed to be specially for Wendy to see, and Kin only saw a fleeting plant. Wendy looked at the Kingsin, which was almost the same color as the Cecilia flower and had a flavor that belonged to Liu. He hurriedly reminded, don't do anything weird. What's wrong? Cecilia flower is not okay. Kim didn't see it clearly just now and thought that Aang took out Cecilia flower. Wendy, yes, of course, but what she took out just now was not. I chose this, Cecilia flower. Aang smiled and replaced the Kingsin in her hand with Cecilia flower and took it out. Oh, I agree with Beatrice. The Windflower is a less popular Cecilia flower with firm supporters. When Payman was talking, Wendy also breathed a sigh of relief. The traveler is now playing cards less and less according to the routine, which makes him very sad. Seeing that Aang took out the Cecilia flower, although she didn't understand why Wendy stepped forward to stop it, there seemed to be nothing wrong with Cecilia flower as the flower of wind. Kim said, please present your windflower to the statue on behalf of the people of Mondstadt. Aang stepped forward and inserted the Cecilia flower in her hand into a flower bed in front of the statue. Thank you, star of the Windflower Festival. We have presented the windflower full of respect to Barbatus, the god of wind. May the wind protect Mondstadt. After Kim finished speaking, Wendy whispered beside Aang, it's a good choice. Do you like it? Well, guess. Let me guess again, you bad guy. I think Wendy seems to like anything that is a specialty of Mondstadt. Aang analyzed Wendy's words, touching his chin. Ah ha ha ha, let's not talk about this for now, I will tell you, but not here. Wendy didn't expect Aang to have guessed it, so she could only turn a blind eye and change the subject. Chapter 83 The End of the Windflower Festival. It's not appropriate to talk about this in a busy square. Let's go somewhere else. Wendy's words made Payman scratch his head and ask, where should we go? I want to invite you to go to the Wind Dragon ruins with me. Wendy said and left. Since the Windflower Festival is over, we should go back to Liu. Liusu said to Aang. Are we going back? Not playing for a while? No, Skynet still needs maintenance. I have some interesting ideas. You will know when the time comes. Liusu smiled mysteriously at Aang. Aang always felt that Liusu's smile was not well intentioned, but she had no evidence. After parting with Aang, Liusu and his group teleported back to Liu again. With the anchor point, they could teleport back to any place in Teyvat. This was quite convenient, but it was only available in Liu now, which meant that they could only go back quickly, not go to other countries quickly. Liu is still familiar. Now I can work again. Zhongli, Liusu, and Nashida, I'm leaving first. Ganyu excitedly rushed towards the direction of Yuhei Pavilion. Liu is getting better and better now, which gives her endless motivation. Why do you think about work as soon as you come back? Really, wait for me, Ganyu, Zhongli, Liusu, then I'm leaving too. Keqing looked at Ganyu's back and said dissatisfiedly. She said hello to Liusu and Zhongli and left. Liusu, Zhongli. The two gods looked at each other and felt a little awkward. The people of Liu are so enthusiastic about work, but the two gods are thinking about slacking off every day. Ahem, I haven't been to the Hall of Rebirth these days, so I'm leaving now. Liusu, Nashida, I'll take you to Liu for a walk and have something to eat or something. Okay. So Liusu took Nashida to walk around Liu. Compared to the idle and free Mondstadt, the streets of Liu were crowded with people. Nashida looked curiously at the dazzling array of goods and the shop owners who kept shouting. Although I have observed it from Aang's perspective before, it is a different feeling from experiencing it in person. At the same time, on the tallest building in the Wind Dragon ruins, when Aang arrived, Wendy was already standing on the high platform. Well, the scenery here is still the best. Wendy sighed as he looked at the scenery below. The atmosphere is very good. Although it was not the first time Aang came here, this kind of condescending atmosphere was still refreshing. Yes, I like this place very much. I always come here to sit for a while and enjoy the scenery in my spare time. Payman mercilessly exposed Wendy's words. Are you here to be lazy? Hahaha, you found out. Wendy put his hands on his hips. Although he said this, the expression on his face showed that he was not embarrassed at all. With such a beautiful scenery, it would be great if I had a glass of cider in my hand. If you want a drink, just say it directly. There is no need to beat around the bush. After hearing Wendy's words, Aang took out 2 glasses of sea idea from his backpack and handed them to Wendy. Where did you get the sea idea? Didn't Master Dilek refuse to sell it to you? Wendy asked curiously after taking it. I'm an adult a long time ago. What's wrong with drinking a glass of wine? Aang picked up a glass of wine and drank it with his head tilted back. Well, the taste is similar to apple juice. Really? But you can't taste the beauty of wine if you drink like this. Wendy picked up the glass and took a sip. It tasted good, not like ordinary sea idea. This is the Windbloom Festival Limited sea idea. Where did you get it? Oh, I accepted a few commissions, and this is my reward. Is that so? I really can't stop for a moment. Traveler, do you like Mondstadt's Windbloom Festival? Wendy took a sip of sea idea and turned to Aang and asked. I'm very happy to be with you all. Aang thought for a while and said that her goal was not so urgent now. She should stop and experience the beautiful scenery and the various people she met during the journey. But you still have some doubts, right? Aang, your idea is correct. As long as it is a plant that can represent Mondstadt, whether it is a flower or a fruit, it can be a windflower. But you don't know what the windflower and the Windflower Festival mean to Barbatus, right? Aang replied, yes. As you can see, the people of Mondstadt have their own choices. Some people chose dandelions from millions of flowers, while others chose windmill daisies. This also shows that the windflower is not fixed, and the windflower in everyone's heart is different. In other words, there is no real windflower. However, it's too much for you to take out Kinkson and Liusu. They don't represent Mondstadt at all. Wendy said this and glanced at Aang. The term windflower was originally just a code used by people in Old Mondstadt to communicate with each other and to agree to resist together. At that time, people often said that the stronger the wind, the more solid the roots of the windflower, and the more colorful the flowers bloom. If you ask me, it does not exist, but it is everywhere. Wendy said, turning her head to look at the sky, paused and continued, it is a soul yearning for freedom and the courage to chase the direction of the wind. All beautiful things that deserve to be blessed can be windflowers. The clever payman used his brain at this time and analyzed. Things that seem to not exist, but are everywhere are like the wind. Haha, you are right. So the wind god Barbatus will not define what a windflower is. The flower of blessing, the flower of respect, the flower of deep love. Everyone will have their own windflower, and everyone has the right to freely define it. Having said this, Wendy changed the subject again. In fact, what you put on the flower bed earlier was not Cecilia flowers, but Kinkson, which is also possible. Aang, you can't believe it, can you? The definition of windflower is different for everyone. If you do this, no one will have any objection. After all, this is the free Mondstadt. Then why did you stop me at that time? Aang asked puzzled. Hey, weren't the old man and the 7 stars of Liusu there at that time? If I didn't stop you, you would have directly inserted Kinkson. Don't I want to save face? Of course, if you don't listen to my advice, then it's not my business. Wendy winked at Aang, and Aang also understood what Wendy meant. It's you, Barbatus, who threw the blame so cleanly. Do something serious. Aang struggled for a while, and finally gave Wendy a thumbs up. Okay, back to the topic. What do you need me to do for you? Wendy asked. I haven't thought about it yet. Let's talk about it later. Don't worry, I will definitely not make it difficult for you, and there will be rewards. Aang thought for a while, and found that there was really no need for Wendy's help now. I feel relieved when I hear you say that. Haha, may the wind god protect you, traveler from another world. After Wendy finished speaking, Aang felt that the wind element in his body became more active, as if it was blessed by something. Hey, although I don't know what Liusu and the old man are planning, it must be something that is beneficial to Teyvat. They think highly of you, so I will help you a little here. As for the reward, 3 cups of sea idea just now will be fine. Thank you, Wendy. Aang took out 5 bottles of sea idea just now from his backpack and handed them to Wendy. Wow, so generous. Then I will accept it without hesitation. Wendy said with a smile. These friends are very good. Although they are not polite, their kindness cannot be faked. He is very happy. Friends should be more casual. Unlike those people in the Knights of Favonius, after knowing that he is the wind god, they have a vague sense of respect for him, which makes him feel a little uncomfortable. Well, the Windbloom Festival is over. I guess your journey is about to begin again. You must come to the Windbloom Festival next year. As one of my few friends, Mond welcomes you very much, Wendy said with a smile. We will definitely come. Aang said affirmatively. Chapter 84 Combat Techniques. In Liusu's small courtyard in Liu Port, Liusu's consciousness was immersed in the golden tree. Because the golden tree grew again, she observed that the holder of the Eye of God could release elemental combat skills, and integrated the previous conjecture into the golden tree. She got the first non-attribute combat skill, Broken Steps. This combat skill can be embedded in weapons, and can be used by Liu people with mental power. Broken Steps. After release, ignore the physical conditions and quickly move 2 meters in the direction of the target. Although it sounds not very effective, in battle, these 2 critical meters can affect the battle situation, and avoid some fatal attacks. This condition is, that no matter how heavy you are wearing, you can move, as long as you can hold the weapon. The only disadvantage should be, that ordinary people can only use it once within 1 minute, and can't use it too frequently. After all, this consumes their own mental power. Then, under Liusu's exploration, thrust, uppercut, these common combat skills were studied. Stab forward with an attack of double your own strength. Uppercut, use double your own strength to pick up the target. The more he guessed, the more Liusu felt that the golden tree was like writing code inside. Well, there is another one, the golden wave. Liusu thought of the sweeping attack of the old man's ring, but no matter how Liusu imagined it, this combat skill could not be established. Could it be that this combat skill is conditionally restricted? It seems that only the sword in the old man's ring can be used. Liusu opened his eyes, teleported to the foot of the golden tree, broke off a branch of the golden tree, condensed it into a sword, and once again incorporated his guess into it. It's done. It seems that it is really a problem of materials. In this case, this skill cannot be popularized. Liusu looked at the golden tree that seemed to be a little dim after the branch he broke off, and muttered. Golden wave. Convert the elemental power of your body into a holy attribute attack, sweeping forward 180 degrees, to produce holy attribute ripples. The more elemental power you use, the wider the range caused. It is ineffective for ordinary life. Liusu. Well, it can't cause effective damage to ordinary creatures. It seems that I can only fight against abyss mages and hillbills. Why does it feel more and more like playing a game? The world can also correct what it has created. Liusu, what's going on? Zhongli noticed the strangeness of the golden tree and teleported over. Seeing Liusu holding a golden sword at the foot of the golden tree, he asked. On the sword, Zhongli felt the breath of the golden tree, which must be related to the dimming of the golden tree. Nothing, just verifying my guess. It seems that this sword cannot be mass-produced, otherwise the golden tree cannot bear it. I see. Zhongli nodded. Zhongli, try the effect, and see how it works. Liusu threw the sword to Zhongli. Good sword, in many ways. I wonder what the name of this sword is? Zhongli carefully looked at the long sword in his hand. The long sword was one piece, as if it was cut from wood, but it had a metallic texture, like gold but not gold, like wood but not wood. The golden tree pattern was engraved on the sword, and it exuded a strong and simple atmosphere. Well, let's call it the Divine Body Sword. Divine Body Sword, that's quite fitting. Zhongli, try the effect of this sword. This sword cannot affect normal creatures. Oh, then I'll try it. How do I use it? Hearing this, Zhongli was curious. Is there an ability that cannot affect normal creatures? Just inject divine power into the sword. The more divine power you inject, the greater the energy the sword will generate. After hearing this, Zhongli injected divine power into the sword. Then, under his surprised eyes, the sword seemed to move on its own. He saw the sword in his hand slowly stand upright in front of him, and the sword body began to emit a strong golden light, as if it was burning. Then, his hand slid forward with the sword, and a golden wave hundreds of meters high pushed forward. The golden wave directly passed through the tassels in front of him and extended outward. It seemed like a harmless light curtain. The flowers, trees and small animals passing by did not affect them. But when the light curtain touched the hill people in the distance, the hill people were evaporated the moment they touched the light curtain. Zhongli, how is it? Is it effective? Very strong. Zhongli looked at the light curtain produced by 1/10 of his divine power and extended all the way to the top of Kingayan before stopping. It is estimated that all the monsters in this area have been cleared. It's a pity that it can't be mass produced. Such a divine weapon must be impossible to mass produce. Zhongli returned the sword to Liusu. Although the sword was very powerful, he was now nobody. But it's also for future plans. At least it can ensure the safety of Liu. Hey, give it back to me. I thought you wanted it. Haha, this sword is more suitable for you. Now that I'm retired, Liu still depends on you to take care of it. Forget it. I'll popularize the combat skills to Kayanayan army and other Liu people later. Liusu was also helpless about Zhongli's attitude as a social loser and decided to find a reason to throw the sword to Aang when the time comes. As for why he didn't use it himself, how could he not use the skills he created himself? Oh, combat skills? Zhongli's eyes flashed. Liusu let Zhongli experience his conjectures and the combat skills he had made. Yes, attaching this to a weapon, ordinary people can also use it, greatly improving their survivability and combat capabilities. Hey, there are still some conjectures that cannot be realized with the current golden tree, otherwise ordinary people can become stronger. Liusu said with a little regret, such as magic, because it is other attributes, the golden tree cannot generate these now. Forget it, I'm going fishing. You can ask the immortal to distribute combat skills. By the way, think of a way to give this sword to Aang. Throwing the divine body sword in his hand to Zhongli, Liusu teleported away directly, leaving Zhongli stunned. You are worthy of it. Looking at the sword in his hand, Zhongli sighed and teleported back to Liu Port. He contacted the immortal to pass the task to the Liu 7 stars, and the two combat skills were popularized to the Kayanayan army first. It is worth mentioning that Zhongli finally used this divine body sword to exchange 40 money from Aang. This sword seems to be very powerful. Payman looked at the sword in Aang's hand and said curiously, just now, I suddenly received a golden commission. I talked to Zhongli. The task turned out to be to pay Zhongli 40, and the reward was this extraordinary looking long sword. As a result, Zhongli forgot to tell Aang about the information of this sword, so Aang thought it was just a very strong weapon. Aang excitedly tried to use this weapon called the Divine Body Sword given by Zhongli. She tried it on a wooden stake, but it took a lot of effort to cut a gap. It was just like the sword was not sharpened and was smashed by brute force. Aang, that's it? The kitchen knife is sharper than this sword. In addition to being hard, Aang thinks this sword is useless. Chapter 85 New Undercurrent. Yes, I know they dare to touch anything. 7 gods, demons, dragons, even ancient objects with these backgrounds, they dare not touch them. But this time, who gave them the courage to touch the things of the Abyss cult? On this day, Aang came to the Adventurers Association of Liu as usual, but at this time she actually saw a golden task. She hurried forward and saw that the Adventurers Association branch president Sister Lan and Ganai were talking about something. Sister Lan said this and turned around to see Aang, who was eavesdropping openly on the side, and greeted, "Ah, traveler, it's you. Huh. Why is Ganai here with Sister Lan? Is she going to issue a commission? And where is Keking?" Payman asked curiously. In her impression, Ganai and Keking seemed to be inseparable. "Hello, traveler, we were just talking about the treasure stealing group." Ganai paused and said in a low voice, Keking is training the Thousand Rocks army, so we separated. Well, we just talked about that even the treasure stealing groups that dare to touch anything originally knew that it is best not to touch the Abyss because it is too evil. But I recently received information from the general office that the 2 giants of the treasure stealing groups in Mondstadt and Liu are preparing to unite to do something big. The 2 giants of the treasure stealing groups in the north and south. Aang said curiously, isn't Liu Skynet very powerful? Doesn't it care about these? This is not convenient to talk about now. We will explain it to you privately later. Ganai did not answer Aang's question directly. Oh, I see. Aang nodded. Yes, people in the world call them the Southern Elder Sister and the Northern Strange Bird. Sister Lan explained on the side. Ah, strange bird. I remember that he had fought with Amber in Mondstadt, but who is the eldest sister Nan? Aang touched his chin and analyzed. She should be the big sister mentioned by the treasure stealing group, right? Sister Lan said, you know a lot. It seems that you have had a lot of dealings with the treasure stealing group. That's right, the leader of the treasure stealing group in Liu. As far as I know, that group of people call her the big sister. Some people also say that her craftsmanship has been blessed by the god of treasures, so she is the eldest sister of God, but this is probably just a rumor. But haven't the activities of the treasure stealing group in Liu become less and less active? Aang asked puzzledly. Because of the Liu Skynet, the treasure stealing group could no longer enter Liu harbor. Sister Lan explained Aang's question. Yes, because of the Liu Skynet, the treasure stealing group cannot operate in Liu harbor, but the 7 stars have not issued a strict order to eliminate the treasure stealing group, so the treasure stealing group exists in other places in Liu. In short, the treasure stealing group discovered a ruin that no one has ever excavated, and this ruin is secretly guarded by the Abyss cult. Although this is a very dangerous sign, with the thinking of the treasure stealing group, they will only think that there is a treasure. Abyss cult? After hearing Gan Yu's words, Aang's eyes lit up. During this period of commissions, the monsters of the Abyss cult encountered became fewer and fewer, and even those scattered Abyss mages were gone. They were all ordinary hill culverts, and there were also Pianhua and so on. Ah, what's wrong? Gan Yu was startled by Aang's suddenly excited voice. Nothing, I just thought of something happy. Aang scratched her head embarrassedly. She had a hunch that she would definitely meet the so-called Abyss Apostle this time. Gan Yu gathered her emotions and continued. They made a plan to send a group of cannon fodder to divert the forces of the Abyss cult, and then rely on only one of the most elite experts to go deep into the ruins, take the treasure and escape. Sister Lan added after Gan Yu finished speaking. For this purpose, it is said that the big sister and the strange bird invited a great treasure thief from Fontaine. Great treasure thief. It's a title that sounds very impressive. Payman's words made Aang turn her head and look at her. Payman's focus was so strange. Shouldn't he be focusing on the Abyss cult? Question mark. Sister Lan explained. Yes, he is a very legendary figure. The so-called great treasure thief. His status in the treasure stealing group is equivalent to the great adventurer in the minds of us adventurers. Great adventurer. I seem to have heard of it. Aang said, touching his chin. Sister Lan smiled at Aang and said, haha, of course you have heard of it. You are also a level 60 adventurer in our Adventurers Association. The commissions of the Adventurers Association are accumulated over time. Ordinary adventurers can only do a few a day, but Aang can do it for 8 hours in a row. Under this high intensity lever, Aang's adventurer level quickly reached level 60. To be precise, the adventurer commissions Aang completed in 1 year are what ordinary people cannot complete in 60 or 70 years. Wow, so amazing. So Aang is also a great adventurer. Payman said happily on the side. Sister Lan smiled and explained, yes, your name has spread throughout the Adventurers Association, and all local Adventurers Associations will know you. You are the only one in the Adventurers Association who has become a great adventurer within 2 years. Speaking of which, in the Adventurers Association, I have to call you a senior. It's just a false name, just a false name. Aang said this, but his hands unconsciously akimbo, looking very proud. Payman. So the great treasure thief, just like the great adventurer of the Adventurers Association, even the 2 giants of the treasure stealing groups in the north and south of the nearby area have to do everything possible to invite him and ask him to personally take charge of the entire treasure stealing plan. Liu has recently experienced great changes, and there are also decrees issued by the Immortals. The General Affairs Department and the Thousand Rock Army are too busy and have no time to deal with this kind of hearsay treasure stealing operation. Gan Yu explained that this kind of treasure stealing group is simply not worth mentioning in the eyes of Liu now. As long as it does not appear in Liu port, Liu does not need to waste time on it. Compared with the crisis behind, the treasure stealing group can only be regarded as a minor fight. But, according to my intuition, everything related to the Abyss is lurking with unknown threats. So, I want to come to the Adventurers Association to post a commission. Having said this, Ganyu glanced at the traveler. I understand, this commission is prepared for me. Aang said. Well, yes, after all, you are the only one in the Adventurers Association who can investigate this matter. Ganyu nodded. Then we will accept this commission. Paimeng said happily. There is another interesting commission. Ah, thank you very much. Sister Lan added on the side. What a reliable adventurer. Well, I wish you a safe journey. The details of the commission will be handled by the association. Okay, travelers, since you have accepted the commission, let's go to Liuli Pavilion to chat. Ganyu said to Aang. Ganyu, are you going to treat us to food? Hearing the name of Liuli Pavilion, Paimeng said excitedly. Yes, let's go. Aang and Paimeng followed Ganyu to Liuli Pavilion. Just order whatever you want to eat. Ganyu waited for Aang and Paimeng to sit down and said, anything is fine? Paimeng asked expectantly. Of course, you can eat whatever you want. Ganyu replied with a smile. Paimeng, are you going to order or not? Ganyu is not rich, he is not Zhongli. Aang glared at Paimeng's cautious look. The richest person in Liu is Ningguang, and then Kaixing. In Liu, Ganyu and Liusu are also of this type. When they are invited to dinner, they don't need to look at the menu at all. They can just order directly. That's right. Then I won't be polite. I'm not Zhongli and Wendy, two gods. Paimeng scratched his head. Don't say bad things about the emperor. Ganyu reminded in a low voice. It's okay. Zhongli won't mind. Ganyu. Hearing Paimeng's words, Ganyu was silent. The current appearance of Zhongli appeared in her mind. She had a headache. The image of the emperor in her mind seemed to be a little wrong. Ganyu thought for a while and answered a little uncertainly. The emperor must have his deep meaning for doing this. Aang asked, okay, back to the topic. Ganyu called us here for something. This is something that is hard to say at the door of the Adventurers Association because they are all ordinary Liu people and don't know about the emperor for the time being. Does Zhongli have any new tricks? Paimeng asked curiously. Well, that's your question. The Liu 7 stars and the immortals at that time also reflected on it. Why didn't they clear out the treasure stealing groups and monsters in Liu? With Liu's current strength, it's completely capable of handling them all. Why? Aang was also a little puzzled by this. The Liu Skynet plus the teleportation anchor points allow most people to travel back and forth freely in Liu. This efficiency should be greatly improved. They shouldn't be so indifferent. This is what the Immortal King said, born in worry and dying comfort. Liu cannot be without any crisis. In addition, these people will not cause any impact in Liu, so the 7 stars and the 1000 Rocks army are indifferent to this. Is this still Liusu's idea? Doesn't she want to be a martial god? Aang was puzzled. Liusu could actually use wisdom? Well, the Immortal King is very powerful. Most of the development of Liu to this day is due to the Immortal King. The Immortal family and I all know that Skynet is the work of the Immortal King. The other 7 stars all think that Skynet was made by the Emperor. So, I brought you here to talk about the effect of the Divine Body Transformed Sword. Aang hurriedly asked, Divine Body Transformed Sword? Isn't that just a very hard wooden stick? No, the Divine Body Transformed Sword was made by the Immortal King using the Golden Tree. Its main function is to destroy the monsters of the abyss. It has no effect on ordinary creatures and buildings. Ganyu explained. This was also asked by Zhongli. At that time, Zhongli threw the sword to Aang and forgot to explain the effect of the sword. So that's how it is. Zhongli is so unreliable. He didn't say such an important thing earlier. Paimon complained on the side. It's not that I don't want to update, but the author is in the hospital and can't write so much for the time being. Chapter 86 Relics. Then how should this sword be used? In response to Aang's question, Ganyu explained in a low voice. The emperor said that, as long as you inject elemental power into the sword, the more elemental power you inject, the better the effect and the larger the range. This is the original words of the emperor, and I don't know the content. Is that so? I understand. Is it only effective for the abyss? Aang touched his chin and thought. Oh, there is one more thing. This is the combat skill researched by the Immortal King. You can attach it to your weapon and use it by activating the elemental power. Ganyu handed the 3 white prismatic crystals in his hand to Aang and said, "Combat skills? Are they the combat skills in Genshin Impact?" "Yes, now you can only use these 2 in the real world. One is a thrust, the other is a short step, and one is an upward thrust." Ganyu did not explain the combat skills in detail. After all, everyone in Liu and Genshin Impact knows how to use them. By the way, this combat skill cannot be attached to the Divine Body Sword, because the Divine Body Sword has its own combat skills. Ganyu suddenly remembered something, and said to Aang, "I understand." Aang put away his fighting skills and nodded. "I finished, traveler. Do you have any questions?" "No, for now. Let's eat. I'm hungry too." Aang shook her head. "Well, then I wish you a pleasant meal. I still have to go to Yuhei Pavilion. I don't have much time left at work, so I'll leave first. I've already paid the bill." Ganyu left in a hurry after saying that. "Bye." Paimon greeted Ganyu, who was leaving in a hurry. After hearing that, Ganyu turned around and smiled at Paimon and made a gesture. "Well, let's start." After Paimon finished speaking, he saw that Aang had already started eating. "It's really abominable. You ate without waiting for me." Paimon said dissatisfiedly, but he didn't stop his body movements and joined in the act of eating. The location of the ruins is in the northeast of Aozang Mountain. Following the location marked by the Adventurers Association, Aang found it quickly. There are traces left by the treasure stealing group here. They really came to this ruins. After entering the ruins, Paimon observed the surroundings and turned to Aang and said, "Let's go deeper. I hope Ganyu's information is reliable." Ganyu's information should be correct. This ruins is more gloomy than the ruins we explored before, and there is a disgusting atmosphere. Aang frowned and looked around. The rock not green had been summoned by her and was ready to fight at any time. As Aang and Paimon went deeper, they didn't see many people along the way, let alone the abyss. Even the treasure stealing group was gone. Look, there are some hillocks there, but there are very few treasure stealing group guards along the way. It seems that the plan to use the barrage to divert the troops of the Abyss cult has succeeded. Paimon pointed to several treasure stealing group members under the stage and said, "Let's get rid of them first, since they are hillocks." Aang summoned the Divine Body Transformation Sword. Hillocks are like creatures eroded by the Abyss, so the Divine Body Transformation Sword should also be useful. Try this combat skill first. Aang stood on the high platform and injected elemental power into the Divine Body Sword. Suddenly, the sword in her hand began to operate automatically. Aang was no longer surprised by this situation. All combat skills had this side effect, but the effect was very good. As Aang stopped injecting elemental power, the Divine Body Sword in her hand swept forward, and semicircular golden ripples spread out from the direction of the blade, all the way down, attacking the hillbillies below. So powerful, and such a large-scale attack. Paimon said in surprise. She saw that the hillbillies who touched the golden light curtain disappeared directly, and a wisp of white smoke was emitted, as if they were purified. It's very strong, but it consumes too much elemental power. Aang felt that she had to inject half of the elemental power to barely activate the Divine Body Sword. In her current state, she could only use such an attack twice in a short period of time. Powerful weapons must have limitations. Paimon said indifferently. It would be a problem if she could use it all the time. "You're right, let's go down." Aang nodded. She realized that if she became stronger in the future, she could use it more often. Moreover, the energy damage generated by the golden light curtain is limited. Under the observation of Liu Skynet, it is about 5 times the damage of her own attack. However, this can only be used on the abyss. Paimon and Aang continued to walk towards the depths. As they went deeper, purple light began to appear on the walls. This feeling was particularly strange. There has been a new treasure stealing group for a long time. The direction should be correct, but why do I feel that the deeper I go, the weirder it gets? This should be the feeling of the abyss. Aang analyzed Paimon's doubts. "Be careful. I will follow you closely." Paimon said so confidently that Aang couldn't help but look at her more. "I know, these bubbles are also very weird. I have a hunch that something bad will happen if I touch them." Aang said solemnly as she looked at the purple bubbles that kept appearing in front of her. Payman said worriedly, Aang, you must be careful. Yeah. After Aang finished speaking, she began to find gaps to pass through these huge purple bubbles, using her agile steps to quickly shuttle between these purple bubbles. After training in the world of Genshin Impact, these were really nothing to Aang. After passing through the bubbles, Aang jumped down to the crack in front of her. The deeper she went, the stronger the breath of the abyss became. Aang could only follow the path all the way to an open place. Aang, look, what is that? Aang looked in the direction Payman pointed and saw a person kneeling in front of a statue emitting purple light. This seems to be a person, Payman said hesitantly as the two approached. Aang turned her head and looked at Payman. Be more confident. Remove the word seems. This is a person. HMM. Payman scratched his head. No, I mean, is this the great thief Baojia? In this posture, is he praying to something? Payman said a little scared, his voice trembling a little. Huh. Suddenly, the statue emitting purple black light in front of them suddenly fluctuated, causing the two to shift their sights. That is the 7-day god statue, and it is a strange sight that has never been seen before. Looking at the 7-day god statue that looks like the wind god statue in the middle of the light, Aang said with a gloomy face, why is the 7-day god statue hung upside down like this? Paymen's speech has begun to be intermittent at this time, and, in the hands of the statue, I remember, there should be a gem, right? Now, what is the statue holding in its hands? Aang looked at the 7-day god statue hung upside down by the chain. In the hands of the 7-day god statue, there was a purple ball of light. This ball of light exuded a palpitating breath, and an unknown black and purple breath gathered inside. Oh, so depressed. I feel very bad. Paimeng rubbed his head and said, this breath really made her feel very uncomfortable. That big thief Baojia is also motionless. Could it be that he has? After Paimeng finished speaking, he flew in front of the big thief Baojia and asked in a low voice, hey, are you okay? Paimeng went forward to check and found that the big thief Baojia had no reaction at all and could not hear any breathing. He's dead. Aang also walked forward after hearing this. Along the way, they didn't really kill the treasure stealing group and the Fachu, but just defeated them. Now they met a big treasure stealing family who seemed to be dead. Aang, I feel bad. Well, the environment here is very fierce, and we don't know how he died. Let's leave here quickly and tell Ganyu about the situation. Let the immortals come to investigate. Payman whispered to the side. As soon as Payman finished speaking, the entire ruins began to shake. What happened again? We can't stay here anymore. Hurry, let's run. Although Aang was very unwilling to not see the Apostle of the Abyss, this change made her decide to leave first. Chapter 87. The cooked duck flies away. The way to come here was blocked by unknown things. Although Aang didn't know what it was, her intuition told her that it was dangerous, so she could only move forward. These bubbles are annoying. There was only one uphill road on the way forward, and many purple bubbles quickly fell down, making Aang dodge and complain. Aang, the road is broken. Payman suddenly shouted. When Aang hid in the depression beside the wall for the last time, the original road suddenly disappeared. It's okay, I can still fly. If it was the previous Aang, she might have thought of other ideas, but the current Aang was different. Respond to me, Alicia. The energy of the golden tree poured into her body, and golden wings appeared behind Aang, allowing Aang to fly into the air to the other side. It's okay, it's me who forgot that you can fly. Payman said with a sigh of relief. Although you can fly, this state can't last long. Aang explained helplessly. The main reason is that the slogan is too embarrassing. She can only shout it out in critical moments, or when only Payman is there. The two continued to move forward. In a room, Aang saw a monster that she had never seen before. Its aura of the abyss was even stronger than that of the abyss apostle. The secrets of the abyss cannot be pried into. Aang walked forward, and the tall humanoid monster in blue and black clothes spoke in a low voice to the newcomers. You come here, you look directly. Then, you should bear the price equivalent to it. The punishment is brought down by the apostle. After listening to its words, Aang also understood from it that it was the Abyss Apostle. This change made Aang's eyes light up. Abyss? Apostle? Payman looked at the tall abyss apostle with a shocked face. Yes, Dane mentioned it before, I didn't expect to see it here. Aang said excitedly. Dane Sleb, I see. I thought you were just mice that strayed in, but you are also related to the person who keeps pestering us. He sent you to die. His resistance to the abyss has long been deadlocked, and he will never produce new variables, because of insignificant waves. The abyss. Unstoppable. After the abyss apostle finished speaking, he took a fighting posture. Aang excitedly took out the rock not green. She wanted to collect information about this abyss apostle. This abyss apostle was a walking contribution and more. How could Aang not be excited? What kind of power is this? I've never seen it before. Payman looked at Aang and the abyss apostle who were already fighting together and said, it's okay. The power is not as good as the Hill Rock Helmet King in Genshin Impact. Aang dodged the attack and comforted Payman. Hey, that Hill Rock Helmet King was killed by you after being hit by one. Okay. Payman complained loudly. It's okay. My current stamina is not the same as in Genshin Impact. Aang parried the attack of the abyss apostle while provoking the abyss apostle smoothly in order to carefully collect the data of the abyss apostle. Then you have to be careful, don't be careless. Although Aang was restrained enough, he didn't expect the abyss apostle to be so weak that he lost his fighting ability in an instant. Such power, familiar. The abyss apostle retreated to the back and said to Aang, I understand, so you are that one. After saying this, the abyss apostle paused, and his tone was obviously much more relaxed. In this case, I shouldn't stay for long. After the abyss apostle finished speaking, a portal appeared behind him, and he jumped into it directly and disappeared in front of Aang. Aang, no, you just left like that? My mission. Looking at the 40% progress displayed on the Liu Skynet, Aang felt like something stuck in his throat. Ah, brother. I'm not done with you. Just wait. Aang of course understood who the abyss apostle was talking about. The departure of the abyss apostle almost broke her defense, so she could only vent her anger on her brother, whom she had been looking for a long time. Aang, are you okay? Payman looked at the broken Aang and asked in a low voice. It's okay. Aang said with a frown. Mora's departure made her very sad. Really? I don't think you look okay. Aang. I'm fine. I can't be better. Don't ask. Aang left the ruins in silence with Payman puzzled. Reunion. It came earlier than I thought. After leaving the ruins, Aang and Payman saw a familiar man in black clothes and blue cloak. Dane Sleb. Ah, it's Dane. Looking at your expressions, it seems like something strange has happened to you. Dane Sleb looked at Aang's tangled expression strangely, as if he had let the duck fly away, which made him feel particularly strange. Isn't this the abyss? Did he remember it wrong? Did you meet Abyss Apostle in that ruins? Dane Sleb mentioned this matter again, making Aang feel heartbroken and unable to breathe. Alas, how did Dane know? Payman asked curiously. Dane Sleb explained, I'm still hunting the Abyss Apostle, and I didn't expect to meet you here. The Abyss Apostle is so difficult to deal with. After struggling for a long time, Aang uttered a sentence. Yes, the Abyss Apostle is very powerful. He actually ran so fast. My money. Aang's next words made Dane Sleb pause before he finished speaking. Hey, Aang, now is not the time to worry about this, right? We have encountered all kinds of strange things in the ruins. Payman told Dane Sleb what happened in the ruins. The upside down statue, the abyss energy in the hand? No, I haven't seen anything like this when I was fighting against the abyss. But, I have a guess. Dane Sleb touched his chin and analyzed after listening to Payman's words, then raised his head and continued, finish your experience first. You escaped from the bottom of the ruins filled with abyss energy, and then what? Payman replied, then when we were approaching the exit of the ruins, we were intercepted by the Abyss Apostle who suddenly appeared. We fought a big battle with that guy. Maybe it hasn't gone far yet? Hearing Payman's words, Aang raised his head suddenly. Yes, since it hasn't run far, there is still a chance. Just now, I kept thinking that the Abyss Apostle ran away, and the Abyss Apostle is not a Liu person who can teleport over long distances. Well, this is a rare opportunity. Come with me and chase after him. But, Dane Sleb, I seem to be the employer. Why are you so anxious? Aang asked in confusion, seeing that Danesleb was even more anxious than herself. Let's go. This is a rare opportunity. With Danesleb's help, maybe we can solve many puzzles this time. Payman's words made Aang look at her. Which side are you on? Chapter 88 Liberation? Wow, we haven't arrived yet? I'm tired. Following Danesleb all the way to find traces of the abyss. They have been walking for 2 hours, and the terrain of Liusu is particularly rugged, which made Payman complain. Aang looked at Payman, who was flying all the time, and said dissatisfiedly, I didn't say I was tired, and you were flying. Why are you tired? My phantom limb is also tired. It's in front. There is a strong smell of the abyss. Danesleb suddenly said. Aang quickly cheered up and walked towards the destination. What? Just 2 abyss mages and hillbillies? Aang said disappointedly. He thought it was something else, but since it was an abyss mage, Aang still used the sword to deal with it. Those abyss mages just now, were they preparing to ambush us? After Aang dealt with the abyss mages, Payman asked on the side. In response to Payman's words, Danesleb directly rejected her conjecture. No, they are just looking for something in the remains of those ruins guards. Is that so? Aang seems to do this often. Chaos devices, chaos circuits and the like. Aang. Although these are indeed very important materials, this is not a reason, right? No matter how you look at it, the abyss mage doesn't seem to be looking for these. Aang shouted loudly, Payman. Huh. Payman turned his head in confusion. Be careful with your words, otherwise one day, when you are sleeping, you won't know when you will fall into the pot. Aang threatened viciously. Wow, I won't say anything. It can't be such an ordinary thing. Danesleb analyzed that these are useless to the abyss. The reason why I'm investigating nearby is because from time to time, abyss mages go out to explore the ruins. They seem to want to find a specific precious item from the remains of the ruins guards and bring it back to the ruins. Did they find it? Payman asked hurriedly after Danesleb finished speaking. If this thing was found by the abyss, something bad would definitely happen. Look at their disappointed expressions. At least they haven't found it yet. Why didn't you just catch them and ask them? Payman's question made Aang look at her with a dangerous look again. Of course I'm not going to be merciful to these guys, but I just feel that this matter is of great significance to the entire abyss cult. Danesleb paused and said, besides, even if we can torture them, the abyss mages have long been evaporated by the holy energy of the traveler, and as far as I know, its truth cannot be obtained through torture. Or rather, these abyss mages are originally facing a fear that is deeper than any torture. Next time, you can torture them with the holy attribute. I don't know if it will work. I just forgot. Aang touched his chin and thought. The holy attribute is not the first time I've seen you use it. This does have a great restraining effect on the abyss, but I don't know if it will work. Aang continued to ask, is this fear related to the things in the ruins? Payman recalled the oppressive atmosphere in the ruins before, and said a little scared, alas. What's going on with this creepy feeling? Okay, don't stay here for too long. Let's continue to track. Aang. Didn't you keep telling us? My target is very clear. It is the Abyss Apostle. Really? Who is the employer? Question mark? Walking down the road, Aang encountered another wave of Abyss mages, accompanied by ruins guards. However, this time she learned how to torture the Abyss mages with the holy attribute, but something unexpected happened. Although the Abyss mages were in pain, their expressions showed a hint of relief. In the end, they were eaten alive by the holy attributes. They didn't say anything. Even when Dilek tortured the Abyss mages before, they begged for mercy, which puzzled Aang. Your holy attribute seems to be a relief for them. Danesleb stood by for a long time, then sighed and said, Aang, do you feel that there are often ruins guards wandering around where the Abyss mages are dormant? Is this a coincidence? Payman asked beside him. There are no coincidences in the world. Everything is a seed planted in the distant past. Just like your appearance in that tavern, time is just waiting for it to sprout. Although I don't quite understand what you are saying, it seems that these are destined, and I can't avoid it. After listening to Danesleb's words, Aang said calmly, just like when she was forced to watch the plot in the Wind Dragon ruins before, she didn't have such a strong feeling at other times, as if he was deliberately telling her. Well, you seem to have known something, but this is not a good thing for you now. I won't say more to avoid accidents. Dainsreb did not show a surprised expression this time, but answered calmly. The connection between the Abyss cult and the Ruins Guard is certainly not a coincidence. Aang did not ask more about Dainsreb's change of subject. The answer will be revealed naturally when the time comes. It should be said that they are branches extending from the same root system. Paimon asked, root system? Branches? You mean they all originated from the ancient country that was destroyed 500 years ago, Canria? Huh? Canria? Paimon seemed to remember something and continued. It turns out to be like this. The Abyss cult and the Ruins Guards are actually the remnants of Canria after its destruction. Speaking of Canria, it is really a very ancient name. Paimon said and turned to look at Aang. Oh, by the way, as a guide, I should explain it to the travelers. The country of Canria is. Aang interrupted. I know the name Canria. Paimon, huh? Because I have memories of Canria. You have memories? But that was a country that was destroyed 500 years ago. Aang didn't say much, but this is not important now. She has a new goal. Seeing that Aang did not explain the problem in detail, Dainsreb said, really? Everyone has secrets. You did not ask me about worldly affairs, and I will not ask you. But if you are willing to tell me, I will listen. So, what kind of scene did you see in Canria? That's nothing. Aang told her own experience. So the complete sequence of what happened at that time was like this. I thought you met that strange god at the beginning. Dainsreb listened to Aang's story and analyzed. Well, after coming to this world, your first resurrection was awakened by your brother from the meteorite. It seems that your brother woke up before you, but I don't know how long before you. Then, your brother told you that the destruction of Canria caused the sky and the earth to change, and he wanted you to leave this world called Teyvat together. Dainsreb continued. Paimon asked puzzledly, the destruction of Canria, is it what she said? That's what I heard at the time. Aang touched her chin and recalled, making sure she didn't hear it wrong. You experienced that catastrophe, which was 500 years ago. It seems that your first awakening in this world was also during that period. Well, in that case, your brother knew this world better than you at that time, because he woke up earlier. After Paimon finished speaking, Dainsreb continued, and the follow-up of this matter is that you soon encountered a strange god who blocked your way and failed to escape. Well, this is the incident I've heard most about. She heard Aang say this after Aang fished Paimon up that time and thus became Aang's guide. I understand. Dainsreb analyzed. You had just awakened at that time and you were in a hurry to leave this world. You didn't know any background of the place named Canria. But now that I have some understanding of Teyvat, I guess that the battle we experienced that year was the battle of the destruction of Canria, right? So, when we were traveling together before, you checked a lot of ancient books, but after arriving in Liusu, you didn't check them again. Paimon thought of Aang's previous actions. It seemed that, after going to that world that time, Aang didn't pay attention to these things, which made her a little puzzled. Aang replied, those ancient books are really useless. There is too little information, but I have read all I can. So you actually want to know more about Canria? Is it to find your brother? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 The Truth? Aang replied, that's the clue second only to the 7 gods. Yeah, that's right. To find the 7 gods, you can travel through the 7 kingdoms. But Canria, which was destroyed 500 years ago, can't be found now. After Paimon finished speaking, Dainsreb added, I should know more about Canria than you do. Canria is a country without gods. The gods are not dead or gone, but they have never existed in Canria's history from the beginning. This is a powerful country built purely by humans, and humans are proud of its unprecedented prosperity and brilliant civilization. Dainsreb said this calmly. A country where gods don't exist. Paimon couldn't imagine what a country where gods don't exist would be like. And what happened afterwards? Just like the memories you left behind, everything was destroyed by the gods. What do you mean? Payman remembered the various gods he had met before and had a bad premonition. 500 years ago, the gods came together and destroyed Canria. They eradicated the so-called pride of mankind from the garden of the gods like weeds. Dainsreb's words made Payman say in disbelief, how could this happen? There is no mention of it in history books. Aang did not speak, but pondered on the side. Why did the gods destroy Canria? In her encounters, these gods were not like what they should be as gods, and each wanted to take a rest and enjoy retirement. If it was to eradicate Canria from the garden of the gods as the pride of mankind as Dainsreb said, the result would definitely not be like this. There must be something hidden deep inside that she didn't know. She also wanted to ask Zhongli, Liusu and others, but such a secret must be kept secret, and she could only wait for her to discover it herself. Aang remembered what Liusu said before, that Teyvat was fake, and even the starry sky was a layer of curtain covering it. Teyvat could not withstand the invasion of the outside world, and the golden tree made by Liusu was an arc in Aang's eyes, which could be activated when the danger came. Liusu, how come I don't know that the golden tree I made is an arc? I'm going to sue you for defamation. Thinking of this, Aang had a bold guess, that is, the destruction of Canria may be necessary. Their technology has touched the forbidden field and caused a lot of trouble. This is also to preserve the world of Teyvat. This makes sense. It's really too much, Aang said. Well, continuing to talk about the past here will wear down people's will. After listening to Dainsreb's words, Aang felt a sense of crisis and had to become stronger quickly. Keep moving forward first. I will continue to tell you about the things you want to know along the way. After Dainsreb finished speaking, Aang embarked on the journey to find the Abyss Apostle again, but this time her expression was not as excited as before, but had a solemn feeling. Payman pointed to the front and said, look over there, there are ruins guards and abyss mages again. Following the traces left by the abyss, continue to move forward until you see 2 abyss mages and a ruins guard that seems to be dormant in front. Dane just said that these ancient machines also originated from Canria. In Payman's impression, the ruins guards appear in various ruins, as if they are guarding something. Could it be that Canria has a lot of ruins that need to be protected? No. The name of the ruins guards was given by modern people, based on modern impressions. No one called them that 500 years ago. Dainsreb turned around and refuted Payman's point of view, and then explained, these machines now called ruins guards were codenamed as Tillers in Canria back then. Tiller. What a strange name. Payman asked in confusion. This name is not as good as the one-eyed little treasure. This tiller should not be the tiller we think of as a farm tool, but a kind that plays a role on the battlefield. That is to say, in war, they destroy the enemy like tilling the land. Aang thought for a while and said, that's right. The so-called tiller is actually a code name. The Canrian people would create code names for their weapons back then. Dainsreb said this and turned to look at Aang. He felt that he could not see through Aang more and more. It seemed that Aang had encountered some major events during this period of time, and her vision was higher than he thought. The traveler's conjecture was similar to the idea of the Canrian people at that time. The land was not plowed with farm tools, but fought for with iron and blood. Based on this concept, the tiller was born. Fighting for land with iron and blood. The Canrian people actually understood plowing in this way. It doesn't feel like a good meaning. Payman's words made Dainsreb sigh. He turned around and looked into the distance, as if he was reminiscing about something. After the fall of Canria, these tillers that lost their owners went out of control one after another. They kept wandering for a long time and gradually scattered to every corner of the continent of Teyvat. Perhaps because they shared the same fate with other ancient civilizations that were also destroyed, they often stayed in various ruins and dozed off. It sounds very pitiful. Payman's strange words made Aang turn her head and look at her again. For some reason, she always felt that Payman's focus was a little different from hers. Then we should put an end to their suffering. Aang had already taken out the sword when she spoke. Okay, let's get to know them more. Those details are meaningless to you. Having said this, Dainsreb paused, turned to Aang and said, but no matter what happened in the past, at least now they are only threatening. Get rid of them all. Just watch me. Just a few abyss mages. Yingzi is getting stronger and stronger. Payman looked at Aang, who was wandering between the Abyss Mages and the Ruins Guards, and remembered that at the beginning, they had to work hard to defeat an Abyss Mages or Ruins Guards. The growth of the traveler has exceeded my imagination. Maybe she can really do it, but I don't know what her intention is. At the beginning, I would think that she would stand on the side of the blood relatives, but now I can't be sure. Dainsred looked at Aang, who was cutting melons and vegetables. The golden sword in his hand shuttled through the monsters, and every time he swung the sword, a hill fell down. Okay, done. Looking at the last enemy falling, Aang said without blushing or panting, as if she had just warmed up. Hey? This spell coming out of this Abyss Mages, could it be a letter? Payman found that there was an Abyss Mage who was not destroyed, and there was still a purple spell floating on his body. Dainsred squatted down, carefully observed the Abyss Mage and said, well, this breath is undoubtedly related to the Abyss Apostle. Since it is on the Abyss Mage, perhaps there really is information about their actions. Is the text above the text of Canria? I don't understand. Aang pointed to the string of purple runes and said, use the enemy's faith as firewood and offer glory to the noble prince. Dainsred translated. The prince mentioned in the content of this letter is him? Aang looked at Dainsred, although there was doubt in his tone, but the result was very certain. The loom of fate, the original plan. Dainsred did not answer Aang's words, because in his opinion, since the other party had already confirmed it, it was meaningless for him to say it or not. They, the Abyss, seemed to be executing a plan. The key word of the plan is, the loom of fate. Aang didn't hear Dainsred's answer, nor was she annoyed. Then, under Dainsred's gaze, Aang found a stone pier to sit on, and sat down under the surprised gazes of Dainsred and Payman. Dainsred. Payman said loudly, Aang, what are you doing? No, you guys are chatting. I feel like I don't have much sense of existence. You guys continue. Aang waved her hand and said nonchalantly, really? Payman said angrily with his arms crossed. Although he usually talks by himself, it's because Aang doesn't like to talk. Ahem. It seems to be in the startup stage, or it's still in the initial test. Dainsred felt that Aang was very individual, completely different from that person, and seemed to be more free. Maybe this is the true meaning of a traveler, not being bothered by things, experiencing everything on the journey with an optimistic attitude, and treating everyone the same way. Chapter 90 Cultivator. The Loom of Fate. What is that? It literally means a machine that weaves fate. Payman turned to look at Aang, who was still sitting next to him. Seeing that she was looking at him with her chin in her hand, he still fulfilled his duty as the mouth of God and asked Aang, do you think this is related to the reversed 7-day statue? Aang said on the side, well, now that you mention it, judging from the atmosphere, there is a high possibility that the strange ruins are related to this plan. Aang's reopening made Payman seem to be relieved. She turned to Dainsred and continued to ask, so Dain, what exactly does the letter say? I'm reading it. Dainsred continued to interpret the following text. Well, the wild plan also has some difficult to understand parts. Why? Is there anything that Dain can't understand? In a nutshell, the preliminary plan is related to the whirlpool demon god Ossel. But Ossel is dead. Aang suddenly stood up and said, that, I have no way of knowing, but they may be like me, not knowing that Ossel was dead at the time, because the incident was too big, and it was also beyond the plan. Dainsred said, touching his chin, and Dainsred was surprised by Ossel's death. But what are they going to do to Ossel? Although Ossel is dead, his wife is still suppressed. Is it like the dragon disaster in Mondstadt at that time? Well, I have learned about your deeds, and I'm also very clear about the involvement of the Abyss cult in the dragon disaster. Although it was not intentional, you did stop the similar plan of the Abyss cult once. Dainsred's words made Aang a little puzzled. Logically, his travel companion at the time should have been her brother, but now Dainsred wanted to stop the behavior of the Abyss cult. He was a follower of God before, but now he is an old demon god. His target is getting bigger and bigger. Payman said this, and he spread his hands, as if he had thought of something. However, the Abyss may want to corrupt Ossel with lies and spells like it did with Teverin, but the plan has failed. However, even if it corrupts Ossel's wife, it will surely be suppressed by Liu again. Judging from the content of the letter, the plan this time is a step further. It is not only a transformation at the level of will. They plan to use the technology of making Tullus to completely transform Ossel's body. Dainsreb paused and added, since Ossel is dead, this technology should be used on his wife. Although his wife is not as powerful as Ossel, she is still a demon god in essence. But I have a question, that is, why would the new god of Liu block the perception of the abyss? As you can see, this incident has happened for such a long time, but the Abyss cult actually thought that Ossel was still alive, and even the information has not changed. Aang touched his chin and said, it should be, because she is more low-key. Even the people of Liu don't know her true strength. They only know that she is an ordinary demon god, and Zhongli has also publicized it. She can't fight. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't dare to believe it. Payman said angrily, hoo, nothing these gods said is true. Zhongli and Wendy have deceived us for so long. I'm so angry. But, can such a thing really be done? Use the technology of tillage machines to transform demon gods? Wouldn't that make them more powerful? Could it be that the Abyss cult wants to create the ultimate killing machine, the mechanical demon god squid? Payman. The nickname is Tulong, and why is it a squid? Aang said speechlessly. Why does Payman only think about eating? Hey, don't they all look alike? Payman scratched his head embarrassedly. Nowadays, few people in this world truly understand the level of civilization in Canria, so it is difficult to judge. Only the Abyss cult has been pursuing the lost civilization of Canria, although they are no longer human. But the obsession still exists. Aang listened to Dainsreb's words and clearly noticed that Dainsreb's tone was accelerating, and his emotions were obviously fluctuating. The letter said that they would use the filthy reversed statue as a base, combine Ossel's limbs, and create a mechanical demon. And the new core used to replace the orb in the statue's hand is the eye of the world's first tiller. Payman said with sudden enlightenment, the eye of the world's first tiller. Oh. I understand. Those Abyss mages have been searching for this, right? I guess so. In the future, just collect the eyes when you meet the ruins guards. Aang gave an answer because he didn't know which eye of the first tiller was, so he could only make this decision. Well, what you said makes sense. Payman scratched his head and said, it's getting more and more complicated. But it is indeed related to that weird 7-day statue, right? Yes. According to the letter, placing an eye on the hand of the reversed statue of filth can give the newly born filthy demon god the power to shake the throne on Sky Island. Sky Island? Shake the throne. Aang touched her chin and thought, in her opinion this was not a good idea. Although the maintainer of heaven began to block their way, after her understanding, there may be some secrets in this world. She can't just believe in her brother's words. She has to find the answer herself. Wow, what this plan is trying to fight is so huge that it's incredible. Speaking of which, since no one knows where the world's first tiller is, why not start investigating from the information about the statue? Aang took over Payman's topic and said, the statue looks like the statue of the wind god. We can go ask the people in the West Wind Church. Well, that poet who sings everywhere is too hard to find. Why don't we go to the West Wind Cathedral to find out the situation first? Maybe we can get some clues. The church, Hearing Payman mention the church, Dainsreb snorted disdainfully. Dain, what's wrong? Nothing. Let's go there first. Unlike the busy travelers, Liusu was fishing leisurely at this time. Liusu, Ganyu is gone. Liusu heard the voice and turned around. It turned out to be the purple cat-head lady, Keking. At this time, she looked anxious. It's gone. You send a message. Isn't there Skynet? Just send a message. There is no response. It's been 2 days. Ganyu said that her master wanted her to go back to Mount Aozang, and there has been no information since then. Liusu thought for a while and comforted. Why don't you wait a little longer? Or maybe Ganyu has something important and didn't have time to reply to you. It's been 2 days. Ganyu, my Ganyu. Liusu. What kind of dangerous statement are you making? Isn't it just 2 days of something? Look how anxious you are. Why don't you wait a little longer? Liusu said in a low voice. She could see that the purple cat head was not right at the moment. No, without Ganyu, I have no motivation at all. Liusu, take me to find Ganyu. Keking looked at Liusu with expectant eyes. Liusu was very uncomfortable with this star-like gaze. She had a strong feeling to agree to her request. No one could refuse such a keking, but Liusu was a god. Why don't we wait another day? Logically, she should be back soon. If there is no news after one day, I will take you to Aozang Mountain to check. Okay, that's the only way. Thank you, Liusu. Liusu looked at Kaking, who was mixed with joy and sorrow. Strangely, what had happened between the two of them? Hello, Liuan. After thinking for a while, Liusu decided to call Liuan to see what she was busy with. She had been in Aozang Mountain for so long, and hadn't come back yet. What's wrong? Judging from the voice, Liuan was probably in the form of Master Liuan Jifeng at this time. Is Ganai with you? Yes, isn't it? Just that something happened to her junior sister, and she found out, so she came back. But it's been a few days. Even if Ganai came to visit, it's impossible for her to not come back for so long, right? Liusu felt that Liuan seemed to be hiding something from her. Liuan, did you say anything to Ganai? Liusu asked suspiciously. Liuan sighed. When Ganai came back, he saw Shen's situation, so I told him about the difference between humans and immortals. I don't know why Ganai just stayed in Aozang Mountain and refused to leave. Liusu, okay, I almost understand. Chapter 91, Immortal Scale. The next morning, Liusu prepared to go fishing as usual. Nashida followed Liusu. After a few days of Liusu's influence, she seemed to like this behavior. Sometimes she would sit beside Liusu and pick up a small fishing rod, concentrating on fishing. But today, when she opened the door, she found Keking standing at the door waiting for her. Keking's purple ponytails were drooping weakly at this time. She was not as energetic as before. Her eyes were red. It seemed that she had not slept all night. Liusu, you finally came out. Keking raised her head and said excitedly to Liusu. At this moment, Liusu seemed to see the light in Keking's eyes. You didn't sleep all night. You waited here all night. That's right, I was too anxious. I didn't receive Ganai's reply all night, so I came here early to wait. Liusu, didn't you say that if Ganai didn't come back today, you would take me there? Keking said with expectation. Without Ganai, even the golden shrimp balls were not fragrant. Okay. Liusu sighed and prepared to teleport with Keking. Nashida, are you coming too? Or are you going fishing by yourself? I'll go wherever Liusu goes. Liusu. With a flash of golden light, everyone disappeared in Liu Harbor. Aozang Mountain is the cave of Master Liuan Jifeng. There is a 90% chance that Ganai will be here because she is not so familiar with other immortals. At this time, Ganai was standing on the cliff beside Aozang Mountain, looking at Liu Harbor in the distance. Her purple eyes revealed a trace of reluctance, nostalgia, reluctance, and hesitation. In the past few days, she came to Aozang Mountain, mainly to see the situation of her junior sister Shenhe, but during the conversation between Shenhe and Master Liuan Jifeng, she became depressed. Master Liuan Jifeng's words, that there is a difference between immortals and mortals, woke her up from her beautiful dream. No matter how outstanding Keking is, she is just a mortal. In just 100 years, she can't bear to see Keking grow old. But when she thinks of this, Ganai's heart is like a needle piercing, and she can't face this fact. Keking's anxious message undoubtedly showed that the other party was very worried about her. Every time Ganai wanted to reply, her mind seemed to be frozen, and she couldn't make up her mind. She knew that her behavior would only make Keking more and more anxious, but she couldn't help it. Why was Keking just a mortal? Thinking of this, Ganai squatted down helplessly, hugged her knees, squatted quietly on the edge of the cliff, watching the clouds roll and unfold, and seemed to have a sense of relief in her heart. Ganai finally chose to escape and seal her heart. There will be no emotional fluctuations in the future, right? Wear and tear is a terrible thing. Even a strong emperor has done so many incredible things under wear and tear. Although I don't understand why the emperor did this, there must be a deep meaning for all this. If it can't be explained, just impose it on wear and tear. Wear and tear, I'm going to sue you for defamation. Ganai. Hearing the familiar voice behind her, Ganai was stunned and stood up quickly. Before she turned her head, she felt a gentle body hugging her from behind. The hands of the person behind her tightly hugged her waist, and she could feel the other person's excitement. Keking, why are you here? Ganyu suppressed her emotions and asked softly. Even though Liusu had built anchor points in almost all places in Liu, the immortals did not retreat from the world like in the game, but chose to re-enter the world. However, as the residents of the immortals, it must not be open to people other than immortals, not even the 7 stars of Liu. In addition to the immortals, only the Travelerine has this authority. I miss you so much. Keking did not answer Ganyu's words, but put her head on Ganyu's shoulder and said softly, "Ah." The heart that was originally intended to be closed began to produce violent fluctuations again. Ganyu felt that her heartbeat was very fast at this time, like a deer running wildly. A trace of blush slowly climbed up Ganyu's white neck to her cheeks. "Ganyu, I miss you so much." Keking thought Ganyu didn't hear it, so she spoke louder this time. Keking, don't do this." Ganyu did not respond to Keking's words, but said in a trembling voice, with some fear and helplessness in her tone, "Why, don't you miss me?" Keking said puzzledly. She turned her head and saw Ganyu's earlobes, which were already red with shame, and exhaled softly beside her. "Don't do this." Ganyu was a little unstable because of this sudden breath, but fortunately Keking supported her from behind. Liusu stared at the 2 people who were already emitting pink bubbles in amazement. "Why do I feel that there is a citrus smell in the air? Is it my illusion?" Liusu suddenly appeared beside Liusu. She sniffed and said a little puzzled, "Liusu, isn't it your good apprentice, and Keking who did it? This behavior is already blatant, isn't it? Did you say anything to Ganyu?" It seems that she is avoiding Keking. Liusu turned her head and looked at Liusu and said, "I didn't." Maybe it was because Ganyu heard what she said last time. She never went back. "I don't know anything else." Master Liu Feng sighed and continued, "After all, I have been observing my little apprentice during this period. My big apprentice is fine, and Keking is here. I don't have time to care about these things at this time." So, Ganyu made it up in her mind. Liusu touched her chin and thought, it is very likely that Ganyu, as a half human and half immortal, and her personality likes to make up in her mind, has heard what Master Liu Feng said. Thinking that Master Liu Feng asked her not to get close to Keking. After all, this is not a good thing. In the conversation between Master Liu Feng and Shen, Ganyu involuntarily substituted what Master Liu Feng said to herself. This substitution caused trouble, so Ganyu, who was soft in this regard, finally chose to escape. "Ah, that's not it. My disciple likes to fantasize. I obviously don't mean that." Hearing Liusu's words, Liu Feng's engine also had a headache. She suddenly found that both of her disciples were not worry-free. Ping's 2 disciples are still better. One is Xiangling, who is energetic and is especially good at cooking. The other is Yao, who is cute and considerate, like a little adult. Thinking of this, Liu Feng's engine felt jealous. In this comparison, he felt that his disciples were so disgusting, especially Ganyu, who was so cute when she was a child, but she is not worry-free at all when she grew up. "Hey, Liu, what are you thinking about?" Liusu felt that there was an unpleasant momentum next to her. She turned her head and saw a strong sour smell. In addition, Liu Feng's engine's originally blue eyes were now completely red. "Nothing, I just feel that Ping's disciples are worry-free," Liu Feng's engine said with an unpleasant tone. "Liusu, you don't look like nothing is wrong. You are so envious of other people's disciples that your eyes are red." However, Liusu thought that it was true that Liu's 2 disciples had some psychological problems. No, wait and find an opportunity to trick Ping's Yao over. Master Liu Feng suddenly came up with a bold idea. The problem now is how to tell Ganyu not to snatch Yao, the disciple of Master Jechin Langshi. Liusu didn't know what to say, so she could only complain helplessly. It really felt that the 3 masters and apprentices were like they were carved from the same mold. Master Liu Feng turned his head and looked at Liusu and said in a tangled tone, "But I can't. Aren't you good at talking?" "Yes, look at me." Master Liu Jifeng's body stiffened when Liusu said that, and he was ready to move forward. While moving, he looked back at Liusu behind him every 3 steps, hoping that the other party could see that he was showing off. Liusu looked at the funny movements of Master Liu Jifeng and could only rub her aching head with a look of discomfort. Seeing that Liusu was unmoved, Master Liu Jifeng made a ruthless move and flapped his wings directly, landing next to Ganyu and Keqing. Master Liu Jifeng's sudden arrival made Ganyu quickly break away from Keking's arms. Ganyu whispered, "Master, it seems that you two are having a good conversation. Is it a bit of a bother for me to come here?" Master Liu Jifeng brewed his emotions and started to find a topic. Ganyu, Keqing, Liusu. This sentence silenced the 3 people, and Nashida watched all this curiously. Master Liu Jifeng was still as talkative as ever. These 2 people didn't look like they were having a good conversation. Chapter 92, Willing and Clear Wish. Master, Ganyu's face was tangled, as if she wanted to say something but stopped. Keqing was a little embarrassed about Master Liu Jifeng's arrival, and she lowered her head silently and stood aside. It seems that we are not on the same page. Master Liu Jifeng coughed and continued, "It doesn't matter. Finding topics is what I'm best at. After all, I have been talking to myself and chatting to kill time for the past 1,000 years. Seeing that the 2 were still indifferent after hearing what he said, how could Master Liu Jifeng, who was very good at chatting, be embarrassed? In that case, Keqing, let me tell you another story about Ganyu's childhood. Hey, Master Liu, didn't I tell you before?" Ganyu raised her head and interrupted. It was enough to say it once, so why did he say it a second time? In contrast, Keqing was looking at Master Liu Jifeng with a curious look on her face. She wanted to know everything about Ganyu. "Haha, you were so cute when you were a child. I want your friends to continue to know you. You Hengxing must want to hear it too, right?" After Liu Jifeng's engine finished speaking, he looked at Keqing and was very pleased to see Keking's expectant expression.